Meet our protagonist, Kai. In a cruel twist of fate, he's just been stabbed in the back by his own heroic party. Betrayed, humiliated, and it gets even worse. His sister was stolen from him while everyone just laughed and called him pathetic. This all started back when he was 15, the day he awakened as a dark mage. In this world, it's a simple rule: the strong are revered while the weak are tossed aside. And despite training until he literally bled for Kai, nothing ever changed. The so-called hero drives a sword straight through Kai's chest, sneering that he'll never see his sister again, because now she belongs to him. But just as Kai's consciousness begins to fade, he opens his eyes. He's back 5 years in the past, right on the day of his talent ceremony. And this time, he's awakened a dark class of an unheard-of level 999. Now he's ready to get his revenge on every single person who wronged him. In the midst of the final battle, our hero Kai seems to have finally reached his limit. After a grueling journey, his party has finally cornered the dreaded Demon King. And Kai, a dark mage from the lowest ranked class, was the key to their success. But for him, every hardship was worth it. Soon he'd finally be able to reunite with his beloved Colette. Suddenly, the party leader shouts for him to immobilize the Demon King. Kai focuses his energy and unleashes his powerful blood prison ability. Instantly, crimson chains erupt from the ground, binding the massive target with incredible force. Tendrils of energy surge forward, surrounding the beast from all sides. Completely immobilized by the spell, the creature lets out a shriek of pure agony. Seeing his chance, Kai yells for the party's warrior Aries to deliver the final blow and end it all. But Aries just flashes a wicked smile. He readies himself for the decisive blow and plunges his sword right into his own brother's back, bidding him a cold farewell. Without missing a beat, the warrior then turns and strikes down the defenseless Demon King. Kai is in absolute shock. He realizes with horror that he's being eliminated right along with the enemy. As his life fades, he can only watch as his brother celebrates becoming a great hero. Fallen and powerless, Kai demands to know why. Why would his own brother betray him? Aries reveals his true colors. He's of the legendary hero class, the strongest of them all. He laughs, mocking Kai, saying a nobody with such a pathetic class never deserved any of the glory. Our hero is just reeling, completely unable to process what's happening. The party's saint chimes in, agreeing that someone with a dark and vile class was never truly their ally. But Kai protests he'd used his magic to help the team this entire time. That's when the female warrior of the party bursts out laughing, openly mocking him to his face. Turns out she's a mage with an ultra-rare class, and she flat out calls him useless. Kai can only lament his 5 long years of hard work all for nothing. The scene then flashes back, taking us to an old church within the kingdom. This was where all 15-year-olds received a special class from the heavens, and on that fateful day, Kai received the Dark Mage class, earning him nothing but scorn from everyone around him. It was a dark class, widely considered to be the lowest and most utterly useless of them all. Back in the present, the female warrior grinds her heel on him, screaming that he should just die already. With an icy glare, Aries grips the hilt of his sword, preparing for the end. Aries plunges the blade in, yelling that Colette belongs to him now. With his last breath, Kai screams her name, his body racked with pain. The scene cuts away to another flashback, this time to when their engagement was broken off. Her father had only allowed them one final goodbye. In that painful moment, Aries led her away, as our hero watched completely helpless. Just before she left, Colette took off her bracelet, an item she valued more than anything. She handed it to Kai, asking him to accept it as a farewell gift. They shared a sad look, both knowing this was the end of their time together. He was stunned, knowing just how important that treasure was to her. Back in the present, bleeding out, Kai is shocked as he remembers the promise she made. With tears in her eyes, she had told him she was sure they would meet again. Aries just laughs, clearly amused by his brother's naivety. Then he drops the final bombshell. It was their own father who ordered Kai's execution. It turns out their father is the captain of the kingdom's most elite knight order. The man had declared that a filthy dark mage had no place in his family. But he made a promise: if Kai defeated the Demon King, he could return to the family. As a reward, he would even get his engagement to Colette reinstated. Colette, meanwhile, was trapped in the castle, forced to maintain a protective barrier over the city. And to win her back, Kai gave his blood, sweat, and tears to become stronger. Through sheer effort, he finally reached the absolute pinnacle of power level 999. But now back in the present, Aries just whispers what a shame all that effort was. The traitor raises his sword again, planning to tell everyone his brother died heroically at the hands of the Demon King. It all clicks into place. He was used. Kai curses his father and brother with every fiber of his being. Aries just calls him annoying and promises to take very good care of Colette. In his final moments, Kai's hand claws at the dirt, a desperate gesture filled with regret. He laments that he didn't just run away with her to find their own happiness, and then suddenly the bracelet begins to glow. He hears her voice begging him not to die. His very last thought is a simple wish, to see her one more time. The scene fades to black and a mysterious voice asks him just how long he plans on sleeping. With a start, our protagonist jolts awake, completely shocked and bewildered. Opening his eyes, he finds himself face to face with Colette, wondering how in the world she could be there. She asks him what's wrong, noticing he's broken out in a cold sweat, but he can only stare back at her. He glances down at his body, realizing he's completely free of any injuries from the battle. The protagonist's eyes widen as he frantically tries to figure out what the heck is going on, but she just offers a warm smile and wishes him a good morning while gently wiping his face. He scans the room, still struggling to grasp the situation. The young man finds it all very strange. Colette should have aged by now, but she looks so young. He apologizes, explaining that he's still a bit drowsy and out of it. As he turns, he catches his reflection in a mirror and sees something shocking. The protagonist realizes that not only has he traveled back in time, but his body has also become younger. Colette urges him to get up quickly so they won't be late. She excitedly mentions the ceremony, where they'll finally be granted their classes. It dawns on him that he has returned to the exact day of that fateful ceremony. Desperate for answers, he grabs her and asks what year of the sacred era it is. Suddenly it all clicks. He understands he hasn't received his dark class yet. Startled by his own realization, he accidentally shoves her away, leaving the poor girl completely flustered. He apologizes, accepting that he really has returned to the past and it wasn't just a dream. But as he looks down at his hand, a chill runs down his spine when he notices something bizarre. The mark of his former dark mage class was already etched onto his skin. Colette spots the crest and asks why he already has a class before the ceremony has even started. He's just as confused. If he went back in time, the class crest should have vanished. With that question in mind, he decides to use the command to open his status window. The screen shows he's still a level 999 dark mage with all the same attributes, and a system note informs him he's entered a second loop, maintaining his status. The protagonist taps the screen, completely baffled about what a second loop could possibly mean. But despite the confusion, one thing was crystal clear. He had truly returned to the past. He remembers hearing her voice right before he died, which snaps him back to reality. All of a sudden, the bracelet he'd kept hidden slips from his sleeve and clatters to the floor. Colette is startled by the object, letting out a small gasp of surprise. She picks it up, mentioning that she thought she had lost that bracelet forever. This triggers his memory of his dying moments, and her plea for him not to die. With that, our protagonist finally puts it all together. Everything suddenly makes sense. It was the bracelet, combined with Colette's power, that brought him back to life. He starts laughing with pure joy, leaving the girl totally confused by his reaction. With a victorious shout, he pulls her into a tight hug, celebrating his second chance. Filled with hope, he thinks that with his current power, he can finally change the future. Colette, flustered, asks him what he meant by that dark mage comment earlier. He then makes a silent promise to himself to change his destiny and never leave her side again. The girl's face turns beet red, completely unsure how to react. She stammers, asking what he meant by all that. He pulls away and apologizes, saying he just spoke without thinking. But she admits she didn't hate it and was just surprised, especially since they're engaged. The protagonist is stunned by her reaction and her words. He quickly plays it cool, telling her not to worry about it because it was nothing. The hero remembers that their engagement will be called off if his father finds out the truth. His father always said that dark mages were filthy and practically demons themselves. Colette calls out to him, saying that she doesn't think dark mages are all that different from anyone else. He recalls that she was the only one who ever stood by his side. With this in mind, he decides to calm down and have a serious talk with her. She looks at him intently, asking what he wants to tell her. He reveals that he has come from 5 years in the future as a max-level dark mage. Colette is stunned by this revelation, finding it impossible to believe he's from the future at level 999. He then turns his back to her and says he'll show her proof. Using his power, he begins to channel dark energy at his fingertip. The mage concentrates and summons a mighty archdemon from the depths of the earth. The creature appears with a terrifying roar, baring its sharp claws and teeth menacingly. The girl is absolutely terrified by its appearance and screams in fear at the sight of the demon. The dark creature just stares at her with its glowing red eyes, awaiting a command. He explains that he can summon high-level demons like this because he has a subjugation contract with them. This is all the proof he needs that his magic is real, and his first life wasn't a dream. His wish to see Colette again came true, but he knows there's no time to celebrate. After all, today isn't just the day of the ceremony, it's also the day the Demon King is born. The protagonist then faces the creature, demonstrating his complete control over the powerful being. Colette remains frozen on the floor, still petrified by the demonic presence. The archdemon then bows respectfully and asks its master for its orders. With a confident smile on his face, he prepares to enact his revenge. From the floor, terrified Colette calls out his name. The massive demon crouches before him, a terrifying display of its immense size and power. Smiling, he snaps his fingers, and the summon vanishes. He then turns to her, asking if she finally believes that he's a sorcerer. But Colette insists she never doubted him for a second, knowing he would never lie to her. Her words move the protagonist deeply, touched by her absolute faith in him. She marvels at his power, pointing out that even holy knights are no match for an archdemon. His playful demeanor vanishes as he tells her to listen very carefully. A little intimidated, she waits for him to continue. He reveals a shocking truth: Aries is destined to become the hero, a future that he insists must be prevented at all costs. With that said, he turns and heads for the door, ready to depart. But his exit is blocked by Aries himself, who casually asks if someone called his name. Our protagonist glares at him with pure hatred, the memories of his betrayal flooding back. Sensing the palpable tension, Colette asks her fiancé what's wrong. Aries steps into the room, his eyes scanning the area as he asks what happened to the archdemon he sensed nearby. His gaze falls on the faint remnants of the magic circle on the floor. Aries scoffs, demanding to know what his brother was talking about behind his back. As our hero tries to explain, unnervous, Colette doesn't know how to react to the sudden confrontation. The traitor then turns his attention to her, asking why she doesn't just choose him over his brother. Enraged, our hero shoves Aries away, telling him to take his hands off her. He glares daggers at him, ordering him to get out of the room immediately. But Aries responds by drawing his sword, challenging him to do something about it. The atmosphere grows heavy, and a worried Colette calls out to her fiancé. Aries steps onto the remnants of the magic circle, taunting his brother for being a pathetic, shaking coward. The two brothers are locked in a hateful stare-down, with a terrified Colette caught in the middle. The standoff is suddenly broken when a man at the door announces that the mayoress is waiting for Aries. Visibly annoyed, Aries sheathes his sword, replying that he was just on his way to see his father. Our protagonist breathes a sigh of relief, though he's still on edge from the tense confrontation. He turns to Colette, suggesting they should get some air as well. The pair leaves together under the cold, watchful gaze of Aries. He offers Colette a reassuring smile, which she warmly returns, all while Aries looks on with pure envy. The two decide to go for a walk, strolling through the bustling city streets. He can't help but comment on how nostalgic it all feels. But someone calls out to him, surprising the couple. The protagonist finds it odd to be addressed as Kaisama, a title of great respect. It's a local shopkeeper who thanks him profusely for dealing with some bandits a while back. He realizes the townspeople still respect him completely, unaware that he's a dark sorcerer. Colette just smiles, saying that everyone admires him because he always puts in so much effort. Noticing he's suddenly gone quiet, she gives him a look of gentle concern. They find a quieter spot to continue their conversation. He then reveals a dire warning. As soon as Aries becomes the hero at the ceremony, he will make a grave mistake. This mistake, he explains, will trigger the birth of the future Demon Queen, and as a result, the entire kingdom will fall in just 3 days. Colette is in absolute shock, horrified by his terrible prediction. He continues explaining that half the kingdom's population will be massacred. In a desperate attempt to protect the capital, she will be imprisoned and used to sustain a great barrier. In the aftermath, he will be exiled, and the two of them will be separated for a very long time. She's devastated by this future, crying that she just wants to be with him forever. He smiles gently and asks her to run away with him to start a new life together. Colette is stunned. Blushing, she asks if he's actually proposing to her. Without waiting for an answer, she joyfully leaps into his arms, shouting that she's happier than she's ever been and wants to be with him forever. He hugs her back tightly, lamenting what an idiot he was in his first life. A wave of regret washes over him as he thinks he should have done this so much sooner. The scene shifts, and we see him helping her onto a horse. He tells her to hide out in a remote village, but she looks worried, asking if he isn't coming with her. He reveals that he has to stay behind to stop Aries and prevent the birth of the Demon King. She smiles, realizing he's trying to protect everyone. He agrees a bit awkwardly. As she prepares to leave, Colette says her goodbyes, promising to wait for him for as long as it takes. He returns her smile warmly, promising he'll finish everything and come back for her. But in reality, his motives are purely selfish. He's doing all of this to save the demons. He knows he'll need their power to face the enemies that will inevitably hunt him down. This is because in his final battle during his previous life, the Demon King revealed to him the hidden truth of their world. He recalls the Demon King vowing revenge against the hero Aries for killing his friends. But back then, Aries showed no remorse, treating the Demon King's loss with cold indifference. It turns out that the hero meant to be a symbol of hope was actually the true cause of humanity's ruin. Now, armed with his memories and his power restored, our protagonist prepares to stop that tragedy from ever happening. With a look of determination, he embarks on his rebellion to rewrite everyone's destiny. The scene shifts, and we find our hero making his way down the stairs into a gloomy dungeon. At the bottom, Aries stands with a whip in hand, menacing a mysterious prisoner. The prisoner is revealed to be Griselda, a badly injured elf, bound in chains. Filled with hatred, she glares at Aries, screaming for him to be killed once and for all. She refuses his orders, shouting that she would never follow the commands of someone so disgusting. Angered by her defiance, he cracks his whip against the stone floor, a clear threat of what's to come if she continues to disobey. Her gaze then falls to the shackles on her wrists, specially designed to seal all of her magical abilities. He taunts her with a smirk, asking what she'd do if she weren't chained. But for a fleeting moment, his expression shifts, betraying the deep fear and anxiety he truly feels. Snapping back to his cruel persona, he grabs her forcefully, reminding her that she is his slave and has no choice but to obey. Aries then reveals the source of his fear, a prophecy that foretells the birth of a hero, and he suspects that hero is Kai. If the prophecy comes true, he knows his brother's marriage to a woman named Colette is all but guaranteed. In a desperate outburst, he screams that he won't allow it, claiming that both Colette and the coveted hero class belong to him. The narrator explains that the hero class is the most powerful of all music, said to be chosen by the gods themselves. This class grants the hero's privilege, a terrifying power that allows its wielder to steal and even kill without any repercussions. The thought drives Aries mad. As a hero and demon slayer, Kai would be unstoppable and could have any woman he desired. He envisions a life of absolute luxury and views Kai as the only obstacle standing in his way. He's convinced that if he kills his brother, the hero class will default to him. Hearing this, Griselda calls him trash, disgusted by his pathetic lust for power. Furious at the insult, Aries raises his whip, ready to strike the defiant elf once more. He screams that he bought her for the sole purpose of killing her, but she retorts that she will never surrender. The villain snaps back, calling her useless trash and whining about how much money he wasted on her. With a wicked grin, he draws his sword, sneering that he'll finally give her the death she seems to want. He raises the blade high with both hands, screaming his intent to wipe out her entire race. She squeezes her eyes shut, cursing him to regret this in his music next life. But just as he's about to strike, another chained elf cries out, begging him to stop. Griselda is shocked to see her companion is awake, and quickly tells the girl to be quiet and stay out of it. The young elf Sasha refuses, crying that she won't just stand by while her lady is killed. In a desperate move, she offers to assassinate Kai herself, pleading with Aries to release Griselda in return. Aries just glares at her with contempt before delivering a vicious kick, mocking her absurd proposal. He points his sword at Sasha, scoffing at the idea that a weak demoness like her could ever succeed. Then, without a moment's hesitation, he thrusts the blade into her chest. Music. Sasha screams in pure agony. Horrified, Griselda screams, calling him a bastard, but Aries just watches with a malicious smirk. He then grabs the wounded Sasha by the hair, taunting Griselda about how important her little servant seems to be. The villain savors the moment, clearly enjoying their suffering. He mockingly calls the scene touching, remarking that some demons can act surprisingly human. To inflict even more pain, Aries twists music, the sword still lodged in her wound, casually mentioning it's a trick his father taught him. Griselda is frantic, realizing the mortal danger her friend is in. Seizing the opportunity, Aries offers her a chance. All she has to do is declare herself his faithful slave. He smiles cruelly, adding that the order should be simple enough even for a stupid demon. Griselda explodes with rage, screaming at him not to mock her pride. But Aries simply threatens her again, warning that her precious servant will die if she refuses. As he raises his sword to deliver the final blow to Sasha, Griselda breaks, screaming for him to stop. Despite her wound, Sasha pleads with her lady not to go through with it, insisting that she shouldn't worry about her. But Griselda simply looks at her friend and says, "I need you." Her decision now firm. With her head bowed in submission, she obeys his command, completely surrendering to the villain. Sasha falls into despair, crying out for her lady not to cast aside her pride for her sake. Griselda can only look back at her, her eyes filled with immense sadness and regret. Growing annoyed by their dramatic exchange, Aries asks if they're ignoring him on purpose. Tired of the whole scene, he declares he's just going to end things quickly. He then announces that since they're ignoring him anyway, they might as well both die right there. But just then, an incredible force strikes the cell door, blasting it to pieces. The villain whirls around, completely shocked and unable to process what just happened. That's when our protagonist, Kai, makes his entrance, having blown the door apart with a powerful spell. Through the smoke and debris, the two elves look towards the entrance of their cell. They see Kai standing there, his mage mark glowing brightly on his skin. He steps out from the dust cloud, ready to finally confront his treacherous brother. Filled with righteous fury, Kai lets out a powerful roar demanding that Aries stop. The villain turns his face a mask of shock at the sight of his brother. With his fist wreathed in flames, Kai charges forward and lands a devastating punch squarely on his brother's face. He immediately follows up with a spell launching a sphere of dark energy at full power. The impact is so immense that it sends Aries flying backward to slam hard against the far wall. The two elves stand with their mouths agape, unable to believe what they're seeing. Our hero surveys the scene with a cold, hate-filled gaze, then turns to them and says he thankfully made it just in time. Griselda is still suspicious and asks him who in the world he is. He then recognizes her and is shocked to realize this girl is the one who will become the Demon Queen. An image of the future flashes by as the elf, confused by the title she just heard, stares at him in fear and asks if that's really her destiny. He then looks at the other elf and is enraged to see what Aries did to Sasha. Griselda demands to know how he knows their names, but he just tells her to wait, using his magic to heal Sasha's wounds with dark power. Griselda is shocked as Sasha's wound heals in the blink of an eye. He then says he'll heal her too, since she's just a slave at the moment. With that, the mage uses his dark healing magic, enveloping the elf in his purple energy. He also shatters the magical chains, astonishing the girl with his power. Her jaw drops as her wounds and chains vanish in an instant. The two embrace emotional and finally free from that prison. As they celebrate their freedom, our hero watches with a smile. Sasha explains she thought it was the end for them when they lost their lands to the hunter, Ella. Hearing that name, he immediately remembers the red-haired magic swordswoman. Griselda asks if he knows her, and he confirms, saying he knows her all too well. The two immediately become defensive, asking if he's allied with that hunter, but he instantly denies it, his contempt for her clear at the mere mention of her name. It's explained that Ela hunted demons for fame and money, eventually joining the hero's party. He says that just thinking about her allies sends a shiver down his spine. Griselda thanks him, and upon learning his name, Kai, she realizes he's Aries' brother. Griselda questions this, pointing out that he's the top candidate for the hero title and shouldn't be helping demons. He looks at her seriously and asks if she is willing to cooperate with him, leaving the elf confused by the strange request. In response, he shows her his mark, revealing he no longer has a place in human society. The two recognize the dark emblem and understand why he uses dark magic, but Sasha finds it strange as his powers don't seem normal. She thinks it's incredible that he can wield such strong magic, but at the end of the day, he did save them. So Griselda dismisses her doubts, telling her servant it doesn't matter because she trusts him. At this, Sasha reveals that Aries had told them if Kai died, he would gain the hero class. The protagonist is in shock, unable to believe what he just heard. Griselda says she refused, of course, as her noble lineage would never bow to trash like him. She thanks him again, because if it weren't for him, she would have lost her dear friend. The scene is a stark reminder of the future where she became the feared and hated Demon Queen. He now understands why she fell into such despair and caused so much destruction in the past. And it was all because of the man lying on the floor, his greedy brother. He stares down at his fallen brother, wondering if he should just kill him right now and solve everything, but he's held back by memories of the contempt and cruelty he suffered in his first life. A childhood memory flashes by, showing the three of them together as children. Then he thinks of Colette and knows this would break her heart. Griselda calls out, asking what he plans to do with his brother now. The protagonist closes his eyes for a moment and says he already knows the answer. With a knife, he cuts the palm of his hand, letting his blood drip to the floor. From his blood, a small, bizarre creature emerges, surprising the two elves. The creature then leaps toward Aries and shoves itself into his mouth. The two stand with their jaws dropped as Kai calmly explains that Aries swallowed the creature. Aries notices the mark on his face, and our hero confirms that it's a curse. Griselda, intrigued, asks what kind of curse he used. He just smiles and says it's one that will turn his life into a living hell. On the ground, Aries feels the curse and warns that Colette will soon understand what hell is. Meanwhile, Griselda watches from a distance, finding his curse quite impressive. Sasha is shocked, saying that not even the demons have perfected such powerful magic. Kai, snapping out of his thoughts, finally notices the girl's situation. He sees their clothes are badly torn and becomes completely embarrassed. The two elves notice his gaze and feel awkward about the state of their clothes. To solve the problem, Kai activates his dark magic and summons a shadow portal in front of him. From it, he pulls out some new clothes and suggests they change somewhere else. With that, the two head down a hallway looking for a room to get dressed. Once in a room, Griselda asks Sasha to help her and tells Kai to wait outside. Kai promises he won't peek and remembers that Aries will soon receive the hero class. He thinks the damage is manageable, but his real problem is the holy sword. Suddenly, Griselda calls out to him, stepping out in a beautiful new maid's dress. She feels a bit awkward admitting she's never worn anything like it before. But Kai offers a warm smile, telling her the dress looks great on her. Blushing, Griselda shyly thanks him for the compliment. Just then, Sasha appears in a matching maid outfit, gushing about how amazing Griselda looks. Griselda returns the compliment, saying the dress suits Sasha perfectly too. But Kai cuts them off, explaining that he has something very important to tell them. He shocks them both by revealing he's from the future and that Griselda is destined to become the Demon Queen. He explains that in his past life he was betrayed by his companions and ultimately killed by Aries. That's why he says he can no longer trust humanity, let alone the hero's party. Hearing this, it all clicks for Sasha, who says his incredible magical abilities finally make sense. She also notes that his intel about Griselda becoming the Demon Queen seems highly credible. Griselda smiles and agrees, declaring that since he is her savior, she believes every word. She then turns to Kai, asking what their next step is. With a determined look, Kai announces their plan to crush the nation of Ella, much to Griselda's surprise. She's ecstatic at the news and shouts, asking if they're really going through with it. As she explains, Ella is the nation that enslaved her people and plundered their lands. Griselda's excitement fades as she sits down, overcome with the memory of her people still suffering under that tyrant. Kai pounds a fist to his chest, promising with absolute conviction that he'll take everything back for her. Her eyes filling with hope, Griselda asks if he can truly save her people. Kai simply meets her gaze, his intense expression serving as a silent, unbreakable promise. At this, Griselda breaks down in tears of relief, saying she can finally face her father with pride. As Sasha comforts the crying Griselda, Kai clenches his fist and says he has a request of his own. He asks if his fiancée Colette can live with them as well. Griselda's heart sinks, realizing this must be the real reason he needs her cooperation. However, she quickly recovers and says that if that's all he's asking, then it's no problem at all. Kai then explains that Colette is scheduled to receive the Saint class later today. Griselda panics, warning him that if they take the Saint, the entire Holy Kingdom will hunt them down. But Kai just reassures her, saying to leave everything to him. He maintains his resolute expression, showing absolutely no fear of the coming conflict. Without warning, a surge of red energy envelops them as the entire building begins to crumble. In the blink of an eye, Kai grabs both elves and teleports them to safety. They reappear outside amidst the flames, the girls stunned by their instantaneous escape. Kai announces they're here and tells the two girls to stay behind him. Griselda is terrified, wondering how the enemy found them so quickly. The camera pans over the flaming rubble, revealing the complete destruction of their former hideout. A silhouette emerges from the flames, a man with spiky hair walking calmly toward them. It's Aries, who steps out of the inferno, with a manic grin asking Kai how he's been. Kai glares down at his own glowing hand before looking up and calling Aries big brother, with utter contempt. As Aries lets out a wild laugh, Kai sarcastically asks, "What's so funny?" Aries' eyes go wide as he spots the mark on Kai's hand, and he accuses him of being the dark mage. Aries then gloats that he has finally become the hero, while Kai was stuck with the weakest class. Kai realizes the crest must have restored Aries' skills, finally granting him the hero class. He screams with manic glee that he's finally won and that it's his time to shine. Watching this display, Griselda mutters in disgust that he's the worst kind of hero imaginable. Aries snarls at Kai, promising to make him pay for everything. He then gazes at the hero's mark on his own hand, laughing that he never thought this day would come. With a cry, he summons his holy sword, Durandal, and bolts of divine energy erupt around them. Aries brandishes the gleaming blade with a smirk, declaring it the very proof of his justice. The girls are terrified by the sword's immense power, a sense of dread washing over them as they fear even Kai can't win this fight. Kai grits his teeth, the memory flashing in his mind. This was the very sword that killed him in his past life. Surrounded by flames, Aries sneers at his pathetic brother, telling him to get on his knees and beg for forgiveness. But Kai is radiating pure fury and asks if Aries actually dares to point that very sword at him. Aries just scoffs, yelling that their power levels are worlds apart and no one can stand against him now that he's the hero. With a smug grin, Aries shouts for Kai to prepare to regret the day he ever challenged the hero. But Kai just tunes him out, stating that they've talked enough. With a deathly glare, he tells his brother to bring it on, warning that he's about to show him what true hell looks like. Aries is completely outraged, sputtering about how a mere dark mage could possibly have the nerve to defy him. Then, in a stunning show of confidence, Kai mockingly turns his back and begins to walk away. He taunts Aries over his shoulder, promising to not only break his precious sword, but to make it so Aries can never show his face in public again. His eyes burning with hatred, Aries screams that his brother must have a death wish. He then charges forward with all his might, vowing to make Kai bitterly regret this. Kai watches the attack, acknowledging the sword's immense magical power, but he dodges effortlessly, thinking that such sloppy swordsmanship is a complete waste of that power. Aries skids to a halt on the other side, stunned that he hasn't landed a single hit. Annoyed, he yells for Kai to stop running, calling him a coward for constantly dodging. But Kai knows Aries is only level 1, so there's no reason to be afraid of him. Just then a notification appears, revealing that Kai has the secret class Black Star. He's completely floored by this information, as he's never even heard of this class before. As Aries attacks again, screaming for him to die, the system explains that this class is only unlocked by those who have already mastered dark magic. The Black Star class allows its user to learn dark attribute skills and accumulate points by committing evil acts. He worries he can't perform evil deeds just to learn skills, but then another notification suddenly pops up. He gains 1,000 points for a splendid evil act, since helping demons is considered evil in this world. With a smile, Kai understands that if that's the case, he can proceed without any issues. A list of available skills appears before him, but one in particular immediately catches his eye. Without a second thought, he spends his points and acquires the demon sword summoning skill. Aries gets annoyed by the distraction and yells at him to pay attention as he charges forward to attack. But Kai dodges again, taunting that he's far too slow to ever hit him. Aries glares at him with pure hatred, unable to believe his younger brother's audacity. As Kai's hand glows red, he summons the demon sword called Turfing. The ground beneath them begins to crack as Aries is startled by a surge of rising dark energy. A menacing red sword emerges from the earth, and Kai firmly grips it in his hand. He instantly recognizes the weapon as the beloved sword of the demon queen Griselda. It's Turfing, a sword whose power increases according to the user's dark magic. For him, a level 999 dark mage, this is the perfect weapon for this fight. Aries is terrified by the sword's evil aura and demands to know what sinister weapon it is, but Kai just stares back at him with a cold, emotionless gaze. Kai feels the sword draining his magic, making him a bit tense, as he turns to his enemy and comments that it's a high-maintenance weapon. Griselda is shocked and cries out that it's her late father's demon sword. Confused, Aries asks what a demon sword even is. Not quite understanding the situation himself, Kai swings the sword, launching a massive wave of energy toward Aries. Aries grows nervous and demands to know what Kai is trying to accomplish, but the attack flies right past him, completely obliterating the building behind him. Utterly confused, Aries stands frozen, unable to process what just happened. Kai looks at the destruction and realizes he might not know his own strength. At this, Aries freaks out, screaming about the ridiculous amount of power coming from the sword. Kai explains that's not quite right, and that the sword simply converts magic into destructive power. Suddenly, realization dawns on Aries, and a completely unhinged smile spreads across his face. He starts laughing like a maniac, thinking Kai is just trying to put on a show to surprise him. He explains the rule of elemental opposition, where light holds an advantage over darkness. To prove his point, he reveals his holy sword. It begins to glow brighter than ever before. Kai recognizes the holy sword, identifying it as the strongest of the light attribute. Aries then smirks arrogantly, warning that he's about to demonstrate the true power of his holy sword. With that, he concentrates an immense aura of light, preparing to attack with his full force. But Kai isn't intimidated in the slightest and challenges him with a confident smile. Aries then screams with pure hatred and charges forward, sword in hand. He unleashes his final blow, screaming for his brother to die, and declares, "This is the power of a hero." A massive explosion of light engulfs Kai, completely devastating the battlefield. The girls panic, knowing that if Kai takes a direct hit, not even he could survive. The attack slams into him head-on, causing a powerful impact that shatters the ground beneath him. When the dust finally settles, it reveals a giant crater where Kai once stood. The two women are in total shock, unable to believe Kai was defeated so easily. At this, Aries starts laughing, like a madman, yelling that not even dust is left of him. He screams that from now on it's his era and everything will be his in the future. With a disgusting leer, he says the women, and even Colette, are his now. Feeling hopeless, Griselda falls to her knees mourning Kai's death. Aries smiles maliciously, telling them they should have run when they had the chance. He then warns that they're next as a fearful Sasha instinctively moves to protect Griselda. But suddenly Kai appears behind him, thinking this was the exact moment he'd been waiting for. With a confident look, he asks if Aries really thought he had won the fight. Aries whirls around, completely shocked and unable to believe what's happening. We learn that the Holy Sword completely drains its magic after a final blow. Kai recalls seeing this exact weakness countless times whenever the sword ran out of juice. Seizing the opportunity, he yells that this is his chance, screaming for the hero's sword to be erased from existence. He puts everything he has into a single charge, slamming his blade against the Holy Sword. The impact is immense, and the Holy Sword finally shatters into 1,000,000 pieces. Aries can only stare in utter disbelief. As his sacred sword shatters, the force of the blow sends Aries flying backward, sending him crashing to the ground. He catches his breath, realizing the sword's magic consumption is absolutely insane. He figures if he'd tried using it at level 1, he would have instantly self-destructed. 2 notifications pop up to congratulate him just as Griselda shouts his name. Griselda screams in triumph that he actually defeated Aries, while Sasha tearfully thanks him for making it out alive. Kai just smirks, observing the dark energy swirling in his hand. As they look down at Aries' body, Kai notices the hero is still breathing. Griselda panics, worrying he'll revive, but Sasha reassures her that his revival skill only works once. Suddenly, a mark flares up on Aries, and Griselda screams that his curse is reacting. We learn that if the hero tries to harm an innocent, his emblem of light transforms into an emblem of darkness. While the hero's mark signifies honor, the dark emblem brings only disgrace. Kai declares that this is his revenge for Aries taking his brother's life. With the curse active and his sword broken, Aries' life as a hero is officially over. Kai then glances toward the city gate and sees that the entire area is in total chaos. Just then, Griselda rushes over, calling him Lord Kai, which catches him completely off guard. Overcome with emotion, she grabs him, crying tears of joy, because he not only defeated the hero, but also destroyed the Holy Sword. A confident smile lights up her face as she says there's no longer any doubt. Griselda then proudly declares Kai to be the savior of all demons and their new demon king. Kai is completely floored by this declaration, wondering to himself if he somehow just became the new demon king. Meanwhile, in a nearby forest, Colette is worrying about Kai. A small demon with her reassures her, saying Kai is probably busy stopping the birth of a new demon king. She smiles and gives him a hug, admitting she was surprised to see him in such a shrunken form. He explains his small size is just a disguise and promises to protect her no matter what happens. Suddenly, he spots the capital in the distance and warns Colette they need to hide from the Holy Knights. He explains that with her being missing, the Knights are undoubtedly searching everywhere for her. This news makes Colette anxious, and she prays for Kai's quick and safe return. Back in the city, the chaos continues, with Griselda enthusiastically shouting that Kai is the new demon king. A confused Kai grabs her, asking why on earth she's calling him that. He tries to get her to calm down, but Griselda insists that destroying the Holy Sword is all the proof they need. Sasha chimes in, agreeing that a feat like that makes him the strongest demon king of all time. Kai just stares at the two of them, completely dumbfounded, thinking to himself that this is a huge problem because they actually 100% believe it. But then he thinks about it for a second and realizes being accepted by the demons could actually be pretty useful. With a sly look, he starts to warm up to the idea of becoming the new demon king. Griselda then walks up to him, insisting they need to form a servant's pact immediately. Kai is completely clueless about what that is, and Griselda asks if he's never heard of it. The Servant's Pact is explained as a special skill that grants immense power to the Demon King's followers. The catch is, in exchange, they must swear absolute unending loyalty to their king. The skill doesn't ring a bell, so he pulls up his status screen to check it out. That's when he notices his list of available skills has gotten longer. And sure enough, right there is the Servant's Pact skill, costing 300 points. He realizes he must have met the unlock condition, and he also sees there are multiple levels to the pact. The skill description also includes a grim warning: betrayal means instant death. This detail leaves Kai pretty stunned. He wonders aloud if this kind of pact is for real. Griselda confirms that it is explaining that it's their duty to pledge loyalty to their newly crowned king. She adds that he's clearly a good person, so she doesn't understand why he's hesitating. A little flustered by the compliment, Kai ends up agreeing to the pact. He turns to both of them and asks if they're absolutely sure about this. Without hesitation, they both kneel and reply that it would be an honor, and it's what they want more than anything. Having unlocked the skill, Kai offers to grant Sasha the honorable class of Demon General. Sasha is stunned by the offer, hesitating for a moment. Griselda encourages her, saying the class is a perfect fit for someone so loyal. Kai asks Sasha if she accepts his offer. In response, Sasha kneels and formally swears her loyalty, accepting the Demon General class. Kai accepts her oath, completing the pact, and using a spell to officially grant Sasha the Demon General class. Sasha immediately feels incredible power coursing through her body, amazed by her newfound strength. An immense aura of energy erupts from her, and a pact mark appears on her left hand. Griselda watches in awe, recognizing it as the true power of the Demon King's servant pact. Kai is also surprised, thinking this is only the power of a demon general. Griselda then kneels and asks to become one of his 4 heavenly kings. It's explained that she has immense potential enough to one day become the Demon Queen. He thinks to himself that he never imagined making a pact with the future Demon Queen Griselda. Kai grants her request, bestowing the Heavenly King class upon her. As the pact is sealed, a pillar of dark energy shoots up into the city sky. Kai is left speechless, and Sasha is equally surprised by the emerging energy. Then Griselda begins to float into the air, completely enveloped by a dark aura. Sasha grows worried watching Griselda in the middle of that pillar of red energy, but Griselda shouts that she did it, celebrating becoming one of the heavenly kings. Kai looks up, thinking that this was to be expected from the future Demon Queen. Sasha congratulates her friend, and Griselda says they now serve Lord Kai. At this, Sasha is filled with determination and promises to do her best. Griselda hugs her and says that together they will create a new world for demons. He watches them, thinking that destiny is changing with the Demon Queen's loyalty, but he knows it's not over yet and senses a strange presence approaching. Suddenly, a group of knights arrives and their commander demands an explanation for what happened. With a hand on his sword, he glares at Kai with hatred and calls him an insolent brat. The divine knight, Geese, appears. He asks why Aries is down and why Kai is with demons. Kai steps in front of Griselda, shielding her from the knight with a serious expression. She asks who the man is, and Kai explains that he's the leader of the Holy Knights. He then glares at the man and angrily reveals that this is his own father. Meanwhile, the knights check on Aries and inform their leader that he's still breathing. His father then confronts him, asking why he didn't show up for the class ceremony. With a smirk, Kai simply replies that he's now a dark mage. His father is shocked and yells, questioning if he wasn't supposed to be the true hero, but Kai shows his mark and declares he will strive to become the Demon King. Geese recognizes the dark mark, confirming his son has indeed become a dark mage. He loses it and yells at Kai, saying he's lost his pride and the heart of justice. Kai clenches his fist tightly, questioning what this so-called justice even is. He remembers his father's brand of justice, which was always based on torture and threats. He also exiled Kai and ordered him to kill the Demon Queen. To Kai, that's just ego, and if that's justice, he doesn't mind being evil. Geese accuses him of being corrupted, asking if he thinks he can just carry on as before. But Kai tells him not to worry, as neither he nor the family are of any use to him anymore. With a snap of his fingers, he simply declares that now they are all exiled. Suddenly, a huge fire erupts right behind the knights and his father. Geese turns around, completely startled, not understanding where the massive fire came from. The scene shows the entire family mansion being consumed by the flames. A knight screams that the fire is everywhere, making Captain Geese desperate. People start running to escape as the stable also catches fire. His father turns around furiously and yells, asking what he has just done. Kai explains that he prepared everything beforehand and that no one will be hurt in the fire he set. With this, he earns more points and thinks that revenge works well with this system. On top of that, he even gets a skill that increases the power of his dark attributes. His father yells again, unable to believe what his son has just done. But Kai coldly states that the Austin family should simply cease to exist. With a hateful glare, he says, "This is my justice, Navevi Sekus," and faces his father. Geese becomes enraged and screams at Kai, disbelieving what he just heard. He orders his knights to kill him, declaring that Kai is no longer his son. But with a swift move, Kai uses his magic and defeats all the soldiers at once. With a cold look, he just tells them to get some sleep and rest. Geese is shocked by the scene and prepares to face his son alone. He yells at Kai not to get arrogant, as those men were just pawns to him. Kai says he already knows that and summons his demon sword, the mighty Turfing. He then grips the sword firmly, preparing for the confrontation with his father. The two cross swords and Geese struggles to block the attack. He's shocked by the sword's power and doesn't understand where it came from. His own sword begins to crack under the pressure, slowly shattering in his hand. Kai stares at him without any emotion and continues to press the attack against his father. In the blink of an eye, Kai cuts off his father's arm, sending it flying through the air. His arm falls to the ground and Geese screams in agony from the severe wound. Fallen and wounded, a knight rushes to his side as the fire burns all around them. Geese despairs and asks if Kai has abandoned his humanity, but then he calls Kai naive and uses his healing magic to restore his arm. To his surprise, the arm doesn't heal, leaving Geese in despair. Kai casually asks if he's noticed, explaining that the wound is rejecting all healing magic. It's a high-level curse that not even the Holy Maiden herself could cure. As a final act of mercy, Kai informs him that he at least stopped the bleeding. Geese is baffled, wondering how this is possible, since Kai only just received his class. After all, a warrior who loses his dominant arm is as good as dead on the battlefield. At that moment, Kai realizes his father's justice holds no power at all. Terrified, Geese asks if Kai really has the nerve to kill his own father. Kai's mind flashes back to Colette and then to his father's order to kill his own brother. Geese is utterly confused and demands to know what he's talking about. Just then, a notification congratulates Kai, awarding him another 300 malice points. Kai then glances down at his fallen father, who's now surrounded by his defeated knights. But even in this predicament, Geese breaks into a bizarre and utterly maniacal grin. Suddenly, everything clicks into place for him. He realizes that if Kai isn't the hero, then it can only be Aries. He screams that Aries must have received the hero class since Yan's prophecy is absolute. But Kai remains silent, simply watching his father's desperate meltdown. Geese starts cackling and orders his knights to use healing magic on Aries so they can defeat Kai. One of the knights steps forward but then hesitates to heal Aries, leaving the captain confused. Geese then glances at Aries' hand and is completely floored by what he sees. He wonders if Aries also received the mark, and if Yan's prophecy could have possibly been wrong. But Kai explains that the prophecy was never wrong. Aries did receive the hero class, it's just that Kai's curse is camouflaging the mark of light, twisting it into a mark of darkness. It's explained that Yan is the greatest threat because his unique skill allows him to see the future. That's why Kai knows he needs to eliminate Yan as quickly as possible. Geese struggles back to his feet, staring at his son with pure hatred. Kai mockingly asks if Aries will be exiled now since they possess a dark class. At this, Geese completely loses it, screaming that he can't let this happen. He laments how his family's glory has turned into a nightmare, unsure of what to do. Geese then orders Aries to be exiled, declaring a dark class useless to the family. Kai just smirks, watching the whole train wreck unfold with a mocking expression. He thinks to himself that with this one decision, Aries has just been stripped of their noble status. With his objective achieved, Kai announces he has no reason to stay and bids his father farewell. Geese, in disbelief, asks if he's really going to side with the demons. Kai confirms it, saying that after everything that's happened, Colette is the only human he trusts. He then turns to the girls and tells them it's time to go. The two girls look at him with pure admiration, thinking to themselves that demons have far nobler hearts. Kai then turns his back on his father, leaving him behind once and for all. When they reach the gate, a knight on guard asks what's going on inside. Kai says there's no need for farewells and gives the knight one last order. With a cold, serious look, he orders the knight to kill anyone who follows them. The knight is taken aback by the order, but agrees to do as he's told. With that, Kai uses his dark magic and vanishes on the spot. The knight is stunned, realizing that Kai and the others simply vanished into thin air. They then reappear in a forest. The two girls are completely amazed by the teleportation. Griselda, thrilled by the magic, thanks Kai as they put some distance between them and the city. Excited, Griselda asks if they're heading straight to her territory now. Kai agrees with a smile, but says he first wants to stop by Colette's village. But then he gets an idea and decides to power them up along the way just as a precaution. The two are surprised by the suggestion, asking if they can really become even stronger. With his hand glowing, he announces that he'll lend them his dark attribute enhancement. They feel an immense power surge through them, and Sasha shouts that it's almost too much for her to handle. It's explained that he can share his skills without losing them himself. He gets a little flustered by their over-the-top reactions, and the two thank him as they take a short rest. The scene changes to the three of them resting in the forest as the sun begins to set. Kai then pulls a bracelet from his pocket, the one Colette gave him in his first life. Even though it's broken, he can feel a magical power coming from it, and suspects one of his skills is the reason why. To confirm his suspicions, he decides to spend some points and use his appraisal skill on the item. It's the bracelet of time imbued with the magical power of the Saint of Time. He realizes it was her power that sent him back and remembers the day he returned the bracelet to her. In the memory, Colette is crying as he promises her that they'll meet again. Now that he's destroyed his family, he believes the future can be changed so that they can finally be together. He realizes that she must be the Saint of Time and might even have a hidden class just like him. With this new urgency, he decides he needs to find her, leaving Griselda confused by his sudden rush. Kai announces they're leaving immediately, thinking to himself that Colette just needs to wait a little longer. The scene shifts and we see Jan finally cornering Colette. With a sinister smile, he reveals that his true target is none other than the Saint of Time herself. Next, we're taken to a quiet village where a group of clerics shows up under the cover of darkness. Jan is seen interrogating a tied-up villager, his menacing glare making it clear he's not asking nicely for the girl's location. Once he gets the info he needs, he informs his knights that he has finally found the Saint Colette. The cleric then announces he doesn't need to question the other hostages anymore since he's gotten what he came for. Putting on a fake smile, he thanks the townsfolk for their cooperation, all while hiding his true intentions. Then he orders his men to use memory-wiping magic on them. However, one of the hostages overhears this and starts to panic, shouting that the magic is dangerous and warning that he's heard it can make people go insane. Annoyed by the man's resistance, Jan says he has something special in mind just for him. Without a shred of mercy, the cleric gives the order to kill the man right there in front of everyone. He then sarcastically asks if anyone else has a problem with having their memory wiped clean. Seeing the terrified silence, he smiles in satisfaction and remarks that it looks like only one person had an issue with the plan. Suddenly, a terrified scream cuts through the forest's silence. We see Colette running for her life through the woods with the holy knights hot on her trail. The scene then cuts to Jan giving a grand speech about welcoming the saint so that everyone can be saved. And with a wicked smile, he reveals himself to the world as the new Saint Jan. Jan reveals that he couldn't care less about the Demon King. His only goal is to control the future of this second loop. Meanwhile, Colette is still running desperately through the forest, glancing at a strange mark on her hand. One knight wonders why the saint is fleeing, and Johann speculates that she must be hiding something. She reaches a tower only to realize she's trapped with nowhere left to run. Before long, the holy knights have her completely surrounded, which really ticks off her little familiar. Despite her fear, she tells herself to calm down, believing that if she can just talk to them, everything will be fine. So she steps out from her hiding spot, and Jan greets her with a bow, saying it's an honor to finally meet her. Colette stares at him, and then at the mark on her hand, confirming to herself that he is in fact Saint Johann. A close-up on the mark shows its power activating, confirming the cleric's true identity. Johann smiles, now completely sure that she is the Saint of Time. He explains that a prophecy foretold the Demon King's birth, and they need her power to protect the capital. The cleric presses the issue, insisting that this is her duty as a saint. But Colette cuts him off, declaring that the Demon King's birth was already prevented by the hero Kai. This news catches Jan completely off guard, leaving him speechless. She explains that if the prophecy failed, the only possible reason is Kai. Jan is shocked and demands to know how she found out about his secret prophecy. She reveals that she heard it all from Kai, who traveled back 5 years from the future to save everyone. But instead of being worried, Jan starts to laugh, realizing she's a living witness to his second loop. With a wicked smirk, he asks if this Kai she's talking about is the son of the Austin family. He then spins a completely fabricated story, claiming that Kai murdered his own brother and burned their family mansion to the ground. Colette is furious and shouts that it's all a lie, insisting that Kai would never do something so horrible. Laughing, Jan shows her a mark on his hand and claims his prophecy reveals that Kai is the real Demon King. He accuses her of siding with the enemy and snaps his fingers with a wicked look on his face. Without a moment's hesitation, Jan orders his knights to capture the saint at once. He figures that with Colette as his hostage, Kai will be completely powerless, ensuring his plan succeeds. But just then, a giant demon smashes through the wall right behind her, shocking everyone. The creature lets out a terrifying roar, making it clear it's not here to mess around. The knights stand frozen, completely unsure of how to react to this sudden and menacing threat. Everyone, including Jan, is absolutely terrified by the monster's sudden appearance. And in the blink of an eye, the demon attacks, sending one of the knights flying with a single powerful blow. Knocked to the ground, Jan is paralyzed with fear as one of his knights screams his name. Colette turns to face the demon, realizing Kai was right, talking was never an option. Completely horrified, Jan recognizes the creature and screams that it's an archdemon. She then turns to Jan, accuses him of being the source of all this corruption, and demands that he repent for his sins. Terrified, the cleric starts begging for forgiveness, promising to do whatever she commands. But the demon just growls, warning in a menacing tone that no one is getting away. Suddenly, the massive creature stops its rampage and seems to recognize her, calling out Colette's name. Without any hesitation, she calmly walks toward the monster and touches its cloak, showing absolutely no fear. Seeing an opportunity, Jan tries to explain himself, claiming the Pope forced him into it, and that he never wanted any of this to happen. Colette gives him a suspicious look and asks if he's telling the truth. With a desperate look, he swears to God that he is trying his best to sell his fake story of innocence. She seems to believe him and tells everyone to surrender. But Johann says he has one last request. He points to the knights who were injured by the demon's attack, asking for help for them. Colette offers to heal them, but the demon interrupts, saying there's no need since it was their fault. With a tense look, she just nods and says she understands the situation. Pretending to help, Johann grabs a potion and forces one of his injured knights to drink it. With a cruel smile, he pours the liquid into the man's eye and asks if it tastes sweet. Then he shatters the vial and starts laughing, calling Colette a fool for believing him. Colette is in shock, taking a step back, in disbelief at the betrayal she's witnessing. The archdemon glares at Johann angrily, demanding to know what his plan was all along. Suddenly, the knight who drank the potion starts to writhe and scream in pain. The scene is so bizarre that Colette can only scream. Terrified by the transformation, the man turns into a muscular monster, but the demon manages to stop his attack with one hand. Johann then reveals he gave him a booster to level up and fight the demon. The archdemon realizes the cleric was hiding this ace up his sleeve the whole time. But even with more power music, the monster is no match and the demon crushes its arm. Seeing all the chaos, Colette realizes this is her only chance to escape. But Johann sees her and says he'll hurt her so she can't run away anymore. He then concentrates his magic and fires an arrow of light in her direction. The attack hits Colette right in the chest, leaving the girl paralyzed in pain. But at the last second, the archdemon jumps in front of her and takes the hit. Colette panics, unable to believe he sacrificed himself to protect her from the arrow. With its chest pierced, the creature lets out a cry of pain, spitting blood from its mouth. Johann then mocks him, calling the demon pathetic for acting like a loyal puppy. He then orders the holy knights to attack, and they enchant their swords with light. One of the knights says this is the right thing to do and shouts for his squad to advance. With their swords glowing, the three knights charge towards the wounded demon. The cleric smirks, explaining that the light element is super effective against darkness. The attacks hit the demon head-on, who complains that the power is too strong for him. Enraged, Colette yells at Johann, calling him a coward and a disgrace to the saints. But he ignores her, declaring himself the very incarnation of justice and good. Fallen, the demon curses the humans, calling them filthy as he loses his strength. In his final moments, he looks at Colette and calls her name, his voice barely a whisper. As his body begins to burn, he uses what little strength he has left to tell her to run. And then the demon's body shatters into countless red crystals before her eyes. Colette is frozen, completely shocked and unable to believe what she just saw. The transformed knight celebrates, saying he finally managed to finish off the archdemon. But suddenly his body begins to explode from the inside out, spewing blood everywhere. He screams in desperation, feeling an unbearable pain as the potion destroys his flesh. In agony, the man begs Johann for help, asking to be cured of his suffering. But the cleric scoffs at him, telling that filthy thing to stay far away. The knight falls to the ground in disbelief. Music. But at the last second, Colette grabs his hand. She looks at him with a compassionate gaze, showing she wouldn't abandon him. Then she promises to heal him and begins to use her light magic on him. The man weeps as he feels the warmth of the magic, thanking the true saint for her kindness. But it's too late and his body explodes as Colette apologizes for not being able to save him. Johann complains about the mess and says he'll have to get her new clothes. Covered in blood, she understands everything and accuses him of knowing this would happen. He coldly confirms it, saying the potion was improved, but still had side effects. Realizing his cruelty, Colette breaks down in tears. Colette is frozen, completely shocked and unable to believe what she just saw. Johann then yells that he is justice itself and that she is the one who should be judged. Trapped, Colette can only whisper Kai's name, apologizing for everything going wrong. The cleric smiles, saying, music, that with the saint as a hostage, not even the demon king will be a problem. Far away, our hero Kai Austin wonders if Colette made it to the village safely. He walks back to his cabin, thinking of her and hoping everything is okay. When he arrives, he opens the door and announces he's finally home after a long day. A warm stew is already waiting for him by the fire with an aroma that instantly whets his appetite. The two elves he saved, Sasha and Griselda, serve the food with a smile. He thanks them, saying he's starving after using his shadow ability so much. But suddenly, he feels a sharp pain in his hand and drops the firewood he was carrying. Griselda is startled by the noise and shouts his name. Confused about what just happened, he stares at his hand, realizing the power he'd lent the archdemon has suddenly returned to him. A look of panic crosses his face as he gets the message his demon servant has been defeated. Using telepathy, he desperately reaches out asking where Colette is. The answer he gets back sends him into a rage. She's been kidnapped by Yan. A quick flashback shows Griselda thinking about what an amazing hunter Kai is. Back in the present, she and Sasha are chatting about him while cooking in the cabin. Griselda gushes about how he even knows all the secret habits of the forest rabbits. She then recalls the time Kai taught her to hunt, showcasing all his wisdom. To her, how easily he hunts is just more proof of how incredible he is. Sasha playfully teases her friend, pointing out how she gets all starry-eyed whenever she talks about him. Griselda gets flustered by the comment and asks exactly what she's implying. But Sasha just giggles and dodges the question, leaving her friend even more curious. Suddenly, their chat is cut short by Kai's arrival. He shows up at the door looking grim. In a serious tone, he tells them that Colette has been captured. The news takes them both completely by surprise, leaving the two elves in shock. He explains that the archdemon protecting her was defeated, which leaves Griselda confused. Kai tenses up, realizing it would take a whole army to bring down a demon that powerful. He glances at his hand, realizing that Colette is now all alone and completely defenseless. In a vision, the archdemon apologizes to him, making Kai desperate to find out what happened. Through the vision, the archdemon explains that Saint Yan and his knights were responsible. Kai is furious because Yan knew about his second cycle, the time loop. He then remembers that the scumbag cleric has a prophecy ability. With this, he instantly understands that Yan's goal is to use Colette to create a massive barrier around the capital. The demon continues, warning that Yan called him the Demon King just to manipulate Colette, and to make matters worse, that jerk even used enslavement magic to control the poor girl. After hearing the report, Kai tells his servant to get some rest and quietly leaves the room. Griselda senses the tense atmosphere and asks if he's okay, noting his terrifying expression. Filled with rage, he swears he will never forgive Yan and vows that he'll pay with a fate worse than death. With a look of sheer determination, he promises himself he'll make good on that vow. Suddenly, his hand bursts into flames, surprising even Kai with his own body's reaction. He turns around to see Griselda, who just slapped him on the back to snap him out of it. With a grin, she asks if it hurt and reminds him that she's strong enough to help out in a fight too. Kai is completely lost, totally confused by her strange behavior. She then reminds him that he doesn't have to carry this burden alone anymore because now he has them as companions. Touched by her words, Kai realizes he'll be rescuing Colette alongside his new friends. He remembers that in his past life, everyone was his enemy, even his own family. With a genuine smile, he finally thanks them for being on his side. He wonders if in this new life, he has finally found true allies. With a focused look, he starts putting together a strategy to invade the capital and save her. Kai explains that a magical barrier will soon seal off the entire city, preventing anyone from getting in. The problem is trying to break through it with brute force is pretty much impossible. He even reveals that the future version of Griselda couldn't get through, which leaves her totally surprised. Worried, the two of them ask how on earth they're going to get into the capital. He then lays out the plan they'll send an informant inside the walls first. The idea of using a spy leaves the two girls looking completely baffled. The plan is to have their inside person destroy the artifacts that power the barrier, weakening it from within. But Sasha brings up a good point, asking who they even know that would agree to such a dangerous mission. With a smirk, Kai makes it clear he has the perfect person in mind. Griselda catches on immediately and says excitedly that he's already thought of everything. Kai confirms that's the plan, but warns that even if they do manage to break the barrier, the three of them alone won't be enough. With a confident smile, he turns to Griselda and says he'll start with her. He then reveals the first step of the plan, reclaiming the territory that was stolen from her. Griselda worries about Colette, but Kai assures her this is a crucial part of saving her. With a serious look, he thinks to himself that Yan has awakened a sleeping giant and now he needs to prepare. The scene shifts tonight with Kai looking out the window, anticipating an enemy attack. Suddenly, a dagger flies right at him, grazing his cheek and catching him off guard. Annoyed, he realizes Yan wasted no time in sending assassins after him. A hooded figure bursts into the cabin, immediately accusing Kai of being the Demon King. Right behind him, several other assassins with glowing red eyes appear at the doorway. Their leader finishes the accusation, ordering Kai to die on the spot. The two elves are terrified by the sudden invasion, having no idea who these people are. Kai yells that they're the church's dirty secret, a hit squad that eliminates anyone who gets in their way. In that instant, one of the assassins lunges forward, unleashing a volley of daggers at our protagonist, but another attack distracts him and he gets grazed, unable to dodge in time. At the last second, Sasha dives in front of him, using a serving plate to block the daggers. Right after, Griselda also takes a stand, showing she's ready to fight the Holy Church. With a single swift attack, she takes down one of the assassins and dashes out of the cabin. Outside, the elf assures him he's not alone because they will fight by his side. Kai braces himself, recognizing the assassins as the Purifiers he faced in his past life. He remembers they were an elite force and tough to beat before, but now he's much stronger as he unleashes his dark power Black Thunder. With a smirk, he says that he has allies now and won't have to fight alone anymore. Sasha then jumps into the fray, hurling several plates as if they were shurikens. She uses her special ability Plate Storm, striking the enemies with her attacks. The assault is so powerful it shatters the plates and takes down the assassins all at once. The squad leader is in shock, unable to believe the strength of a simple maid. Griselda then moves forward, using blood from a wound to create a weapon. With her power, she molds the blood into the shape of a whip, ready to attack. The elf strikes with the whip, sweeping away several enemies with a single powerful blow. She then taunts the survivors, saying, "This is just the beginning." One of the assassins falls wounded, unable to believe his men couldn't even fight back. But Kai ruins the moment, telling Griselda they are actually forest rabbits. She's completely baffled, not understanding how those assassins could be rabbits. In a flashback, Kai explains to Griselda that forest rabbits can camouflage themselves in the shadows. He then points to the root of a tree, revealing a rabbit hidden there. Griselda gets super excited, confirming that he was telling the truth. Back in the fight, she gives a wicked smile and uses her blood to set a trap. Seeing her magic disappear, the assassins think she's exhausted and prepare an ambush, but she walks calmly, using the blood cross to spread her magic into the shadows. The squad fails to notice the trap and rushes toward her to attack with everything they've got. Just then, blood-red roses sprout from the ground right under the enemy's feet. The roses explode into thorns, piercing the assassins from below and catching them all by surprise. In seconds, several bodies are impaled and lifted into the air by the elf's blood magic. She gives a victorious smile as everything went down exactly as Kai had predicted. The two elves show that thanks to their pact with Kai, they have become much stronger. The scene shows the aftermath of the battle with the bodies of the assassins scattered across the field. Kai admits with a smile that he had underestimated the potential of his new allies. Sasha then approaches with a prisoner and asks Kai what to do with him. Kai smiles, as this is the perfect opportunity he's been waiting for to make his move. He admits he was expecting the assassins, but he didn't think they'd arrive so quickly. He then proposes that the man make a contract with him and become his new servant. Griselda is shocked by the proposal, not expecting this from her master. She then asks why he wants to make a pact with an enemy, failing to understand his plan. But with a gesture, Kai signals for her to calm down, showing that he knows what he's doing. He warns the assassin that refusing the proposed deal is not an option. The only other choice would be for Griselda to use her powers to turn him into an undead. The man is terrified just imagining he would become an immortal, unholy monster. Kai already knew the answer, and with a serious look, he simply asks for the man's name. Terrified, the assassin finally replies that his name is Mateo. He warns that betrayal means death, and asks if Mateo accepts the contract. Seeing the man's decision, Kai finally allows the pact to be made. With that, he gives Mateo the class of demon commander using his magic. Instantly, the new servant feels an immense power flowing through his entire body. Griselda is outraged, questioning why Kai made a pact with a human enemy, but Kai calmly explains that the man will now be their informant in the capital. He then reveals his plan to send Mateo back to infiltrate the church. Griselda understands everything and gets excited, asking Kai to tell her the rest of the strategy. With that, he turns to Mateo, already preparing to give his first orders. He tells the spy to inform a man named Jan that the Demon King has a key item and has gone south. Mateo is a bit confused by the message, but agrees to deliver it exactly as told. Kai's plan is to use this bait to lure more enemies, so he can then defeat and convert them. He thinks it would be much easier if Jan himself came, but he doubts that will happen. With an informant on the inside, he can finally shatter the city's barrier at the perfect moment. His two elf companions are totally blown away, gushing over their master Kai's brilliant strategy. He gets a little flustered by the praise, brushing it off and saying they're overdoing it. Right on cue, a system screen pops up to congratulate him, but there's a catch: he didn't gain a single experience point. For a second, he wonders if his actions are a bit on the evil side, but he quickly shakes it off to focus on the mission. After all, if this all goes according to plan, he'll walk away with way more than just an informant. Picturing Colette Kai strengthens his resolve to rescue her soon. But out of nowhere, Sasha screams for Kai as something strange emerges from the forest. They cautiously approach and find a sheep demon lying on the ground covered in wounds. Griselda immediately rushes to the demon's side, shaking him and demanding to know what happened. Panicked, she yells that they need to treat him right away, but it looks like it's already too late. Struggling to speak, the demon warns them that his territory has been taken and that they have to run. Struggling to speak, the demon warns them that his territory has been taken and that they have to run. The group can only watch as Griselda begs the demon to hold on, completely missing the meaning of his warning. Kai, on the other hand, seems to get it instantly, his expression hardening. With his final breath, the demon manages to utter just one name, Ella, before he dies. The scene changes to a peaceful village at dusk, where a blue butterfly glows softly in the grass. Kai suggests they stop to rest privately, vowing once again to save Colette. Just then, the blue butterfly flutters up and lands right in front of Griselda, grabbing her attention. She immediately understands the message, realizing it's somehow connected to Colette. Meanwhile, the sheep demon they had saved gets to its feet, and Kai decides it's time to move. The demon thanks the group for saving its life in its moment of need. Griselda kneels by the butterfly almost as if in response. With a determined expression, she declares that she won't allow any more of her people to die. The sheep demon is relieved by her promise, thinking to itself how dependable Griselda is. She then warns it to go into hiding since their lands have been overrun by the dangerous Ela. Elsewhere, a praying mantis gently holds the butterfly, telling it to be careful. Kai warns the group that Ella is no pushover and that they need to gather some intel first. Just then, the door to a tavern is kicked open, and inside a group of boorish men are laughing about demons. As Griselda serves Kai, she thinks to herself that she could take these guys down with one hand. The brutes continue to drink loudly, bragging about how much fun it is to go raiding. One of the men mentions that someone named Elsa is finally about to receive her noble title. The moment Kai hears the name Elsa, he tenses up. He knows that name all too well. His buddy celebrates, yelling that this means they'll be serving a noble. Griselda is absolutely fuming over their conversation, but Kai tells her to cool it for now. The tavern is pure chaos, with everyone drinking and shouting their heads off. Kai then tells Griselda not to worry because Elsa's reign is about to come to an end. Kai figures he needs info on Elsa, and that her goons are the perfect source, but Griselda's anger completely vanishes the second a rice omelet is placed on their table, leaving the elf overjoyed. Kai can't help but chuckle, amused by how simple it is to make Griselda happy. Just then, Sasha comes over and offers to pour Kai some wine, but their chat catches the attention of the brutes, who start giving the group a weird look. The two men exchange a nasty grin, obviously looking to start some trouble. Kai mentions it might be a good idea for them to get some new clothes to avoid attracting attention. Sasha is at a loss for words, but Griselda is immediately all for it. And sure enough, one of the men gets up and stomps over to Sasha's side. He orders her to pour him some wine too. With an icy glare, Sasha looks the man dead in the eye and tells him she won't be serving him. The man boasts that he's part of Elsa's vanguard and that nobody dares to disrespect him. Kai just smirks. His plan to get information is working perfectly. Meanwhile, a blissful Griselda is just about to dig into her rice omelet. But the man, furious at being rejected, slams his fist on the table, sending her food flying to the floor. The elf is in total shock as the other goons howl with laughter. With tears of pure rage in her eyes, she glares at the man who ruined her long-awaited meal. That's when the guy notices she's an elf and rudely asks if she's some kind of slave. He then yells that he's claiming her for himself, causing the two elves to brace for a fight. Kai's expression instantly darkens and he shoots the man an ice-cold glare. He stands up and says, "That's enough," telling the brute to back off. The man spots the mark on Kai's hand and immediately recognizes it as the sign of a dark mage. He just laughs and mocks Kai, calling him a lowly C-rank dark mage. Full of contempt, he sneers that he hates that class and should probably just kill him right here and now. But Kai just glares back and warns him, "First you're going to pay for the omelet." The brute glares at Kai with disdain, cracking his knuckles with a smirk. He then shows off his dragon claws and scoffs at Kai for having the guts to face him, but Kai isn't fazed at all, simply snapping his fingers as his mage mark glows. Kai realizes the guy is a warrior, but says he has a few questions first. The man gets annoyed and tells him to keep his questions to himself, as he isn't in the mood to talk. With that, he charges forward, yelling that he's going to kill Kai and then take the women for himself. The henchmen laugh at the scene while the rest of the bar is terrified by the commotion. Without moving an inch, Kai watches the attack, and the man ends up punching the table instead of him. The brute smirks, proud of the strength he just displayed. He then turns to Kai and warns him that he misjudged his opponent. But out of nowhere, the man takes a surprise blow to the stomach and spits up blood in pain. He staggers backward, completely shocked and confused about where the attack came from. Kai stands before him, wondering if maybe he hit him a little too hard while everyone in the bar is stunned. Sasha and Griselda laugh, finding the scene hilarious. The henchmen can't believe it, and Kai understands they are also servants of this Elsa. He then calmly reveals that he's level 999, leaving the henchmen shocked. They can't believe what they just heard, but Kai explains that he's much stronger than them. With a serious look, he warns that now they're going to have a talk and tell him everything. Terrified, the men stammer, asking why he's so interested in their boss Elsa. He warns them that dark mages have torture spells and invites them outside for a chat. Afraid of getting roasted, they immediately agree to tell Kai whatever he wants to know. After their conversation, he understands the situation and comments that the group's finances seem to be doing well. He then finds out they're making money by using demons as slave labor. The two henchmen look at each other and confirm the whole story with a fearful nod. Just then, Kai walks back into the bar with a bag of money and announces that the night is on him. The crowd cheers at his generosity, and the elves realize he's using the henchmen's money. Sasha even questions if the money couldn't be used for something better, thinking it's a waste, but he explains that if the noise attracts attention, Elsa might get suspicious. Griselda recognizes the memory wiping spell and gets worried, knowing it's dangerous. But he calms her down, explaining that the spell will only make everyone forget they were ever there. Griselda asks what they're going to do with the money, and Kai tells her they'll use it for travel. Meanwhile, the tied-up henchmen cry in a corner, lamenting that they've lost all their cash. With a smile, Griselda gets excited about the idea and immediately shouts that she wants to buy new clothes. Kai agrees with her. Since they're about to enter enemy territory, it's best not to arouse suspicion. The scene focuses on the bar, showing people drinking, and a hooded figure observing everything. A close-up reveals the mysterious person's face. They wear glasses and have strange red eyes. Down the road, a huge army of holy knights marches in perfect sync. Startled by the noise, the villagers wonder what on earth is going on outside. The village chief approaches them, wanting to know why so many soldiers are in his village. Commander Geese then uses magic to show Kai's face, asking if they've seen him. Upon seeing the image, the chief is shocked as he recognizes the boy immediately. But he lies, saying he hasn't seen him, and even asks for some cash for the information. A soldier reports that Kai isn't there, and suggests with a sinister smile that they continue their journey south. Geese says this village is no longer of any use. The scene changes, showing Kai on a cliff, telling his companions they've arrived. Sasha looks down and confirms, commenting on the huge number of soldiers. She notices their flag, and warns that they are the church's elite Knight Templars. Kai isn't surprised, as his demon spy had already reported this exact information. It's revealed that Jan sent a warning about the 300 knights that were coming. Sasha is worried, as this scale means the entire Holy Church has been mobilized. But Griselda smiles confidently, telling Kai not to worry because they can handle them. Kai smiles, finding the girl's confidence very reassuring, but his expression quickly turns serious as he won't forgive the knights for touching Colette. He then turns to Griselda and Sasha, saying he has a request for them. With a serious look, Kai orders them both to kill every single enemy. The elves accept the order with determination, ready to carry out his command. He continues asking them to do it without damaging any of the bodies. Griselda is confused by the order, wondering why he wants something so specific. Sasha, however, believes that if Sir Kai is asking, he must have a good reason. Noticing their hesitation, he tells them to relax because they are both very strong. The unexpected praise makes the girls blush, but it also boosts their confidence. They perk right up, promising to give the fight their all. Now that everyone's on the same page, Kai announces it's time to kick off their attack plan. Just then, he spots some suspicious movement and realizes they're transporting supplies. In the distance, a troop of holy knights strolls along with a large cart. Their leader, Geese, complains that the villagers were broke, but he's happy enough to be plundering from heretics. The scene cuts back to the village, where we see the chief on the ground looking utterly hopeless amidst the wreckage. Suddenly, Geese hears a sound and whips around, sensing an unfamiliar presence. High above the field, he finally spots his target, the mage Kai. The commander's eyes burn with hatred as he bellows our protagonist's full name. He sneers, asking if Kai is finally tired of running, clearly finding the mage's calm demeanor arrogant. But Kai brushes off the taunt, cutting straight to the point to ask if Colette is safe. Furious, Geese roars that it's none of his business, and that her life now belongs to the church. With a look of pure hatred, Kai declares, "That's enough calling the knights scum." At that very moment, an explosion rips through the middle of the troop, catching everyone completely by surprise. The commander is stunned, shocked by the attack that came out of nowhere. His soldiers cry out in agony as they're sent flying in every direction. That's when Sasha makes her entrance, appearing in midair to spin and gracefully attack the enemies below. She hurls daggers of dark energy, striking several knights at once. Unable to get a clear look at their assailant, Geese shouts, demanding to know what the hell is going on. Amidst the chaos, the panicking soldiers yell to capture their attacker. One of the knights screams in pain as he's hit dead on by a dark magic attack. With fury in her eyes, Griselda also leaps into the fray, unleashing her full power. Geese can't believe his elite troop is being torn apart, while Kai calmly observes, realizing he might not even have to lift a finger. Taking advantage of the distraction, Sasha lands a devastating blow to a soldier's head. Griselda uses her blood magic to conjure an orb, effortlessly finishing off another enemy. As the dust settles, the massacre is complete with bodies strewn across the field. In a flash, Sasha appears right behind Geese, asking what to do with the last one standing. Kai grows pensive, considering that the commander might be more useful to him alive than dead. An idea sparks in his mind as he realizes this is the best decision to make. The commander stands frozen in terror, with a knife to his neck. Completely unsure of what his fate will be, he can only wait. With a victorious grin, Griselda informs Sir Kai that she has gathered all the bodies. She explains that other than being dead, the bodies are in pristine condition. Kai smiles and praises them both for a job well done. The compliment leaves the two girls flustered but visibly thrilled with the recognition. However, when Griselda checks the loot, her mood sours when she sees it's all just goods plundered from the village. Sasha remarks that the Holy Church's corruption seems to be much worse than she had imagined. Kai turns around with a serious look, his next move already planned. He realizes that with the bodies intact, he can finally test out that forbidden spell. Griselda approaches and asks Sir Kai what he plans to do with all of those corpses. He replies that he's going to turn them all into his new allies, leaving the girls completely stunned. This type of dark magic is considered an act of rebellion against God. Our protagonist then begins to concentrate, preparing to unleash his magic. The girls feel the immense pressure of the energy, as Kai remembers he never used this spell in his first cycle. Griselda is terrified by the sheer power, commenting on what an enormous spell it is. An overhead shot reveals the gigantic magic circle Kai has created. He knows it's a necessary step. A sinister dark energy begins to emanate from the pile of the Holy Knights' bodies. They scream in agony as they are reanimated, their eyes glowing an intense fiery red. In an instant, the entire army rises again, now under our hero's complete control. A panicked Griselda shouts that this is high-level necromancy. Surrounded by the undead, she finally understands why he wanted the bodies kept intact. Geese collapses to his knees, screaming in terror as he sees his own men surrounding him. The knights now possess perfectly synchronized movements and a courage that does not fear death. The commander is completely horrified, unable to believe what he's seeing, because these were once his elite knights. They now form an unparalleled fighting force. Kai looks over his powerful new army of the undead with a satisfied smirk. In complete despair, Geese screams that God will never forgive such an atrocity. But Kai simply scoffs at the plea, questioning if this so-called God even exists. He reflects that if God truly existed, there would have been salvation, and that is why he can't forgive him. Geese trembles as Kai reaffirms that he will do whatever it takes to save Colette. He then turns to the commander and lays out a choice for him. He can either become a subordinate of the Demon King, or he can join his men as one of the undead. A system window appears, congratulating Kai on his victory and awarding him 1,200 points. Suddenly, a small demon appears, reporting that he took care of the enemy scouts, so Jan wouldn't find out. Griselda is confused by the creature, wondering what kind of being it is. Kai then reveals that it's an arcane demon, leaving the girls shocked by the information. The demon then reminds Sir Kai about another pending matter he had forgotten. Kai nods, saying they need to handle that right away as well. Meanwhile, a hooded figure hides in the bushes, watching everything from a distance. Aries flees through the forest, all beaten up, wondering why this happened to him. Filled with rage, he blames his brother for everything that happened. With no strength left, he stumbles and falls to the ground, cursing Kai for his misfortune. Just then, a luxurious carriage passes by on the road, right next to where he collapsed. The hero lies on the grass, groaning in pain, unable to get up. From inside the vehicle, a noble couple spots him and hears his cries for help. The scene shifts to a luxurious mansion at night, showing that he has been rescued. Now, in the dining room, Aries lets out a crazy laugh, happy to have escaped with his life. The noble woman says she's happy to see him well, and that it's an honor to meet the great hero, but she feels awkward asking why he was in that state, and he stops eating. Aries clenches his jaw in anger, remembering the reason for his recent humiliation. The scene flashes back to 3 days earlier with Aries trying to enter his family's estate. He shows the emblem on his hand and shouts that he is the hero, demanding they let him pass, but the guard says that proves nothing and asks to see the holy sword as proof. Aries yells that the sword broke, but the guard replies that the holy sword cannot break. Tired of the mockery, Aries loses his patience and grabs the guard, shouting at him to stop. The soldier is momentarily shocked, surprised by the hero's aggressive reaction. He then accuses Aries of revealing his true self, a class with the dark attribute. Confused, Aries looks at his own hand and sees the mark of the shadow mage appearing. He panics and shouts that the emblem has changed, but no one believes his story. The captain accuses him of being an imposter and orders the others to teach him a lesson. At that, the soldiers prepare to attack, while Aries begs them to wait. With a malicious smile, the captain confesses that he has held a grudge against Lord Aries for a long time. The hero tries to explain, shouting that it's all a mistake and begging them to listen. But it was too late, and the guards start beating him without mercy. The attack is so powerful that Aries is thrown far, landing hard on the dirt ground. They then leave him there, warning him never to show his face around there again. Back in the present, Aries swears to himself that one day he will have his revenge on everyone. The noble woman who rescued him looks thoughtful, questioning if he really is the hero, but he cuts her off abruptly, saying the matter is none of her business. The noble woman apologizes for the question and asks Aries to rest well for the night. He stares back at her, and she thinks he is quite handsome with impressive assets. She then wonders just how far the privilege of a hero like him extends. At that, the young woman says she is tired from her journey and will be retiring to her chambers. Aries repeats the word relax, a malicious smile already on his face. With a sinister look, he agrees and says he will do exactly as she asked. The noble woman then walks away with the butler, asking him to take good care of their special guest. The servant bids her farewell, politely wishing his mistress a good night. But as soon as she leaves, Aries lets out a maniacal scream and demands all the money in the mansion. The butler freezes, completely shocked by the order he just received. He asks what the hero is talking about. Not understanding the sudden change in attitude, Aries shouts at him to stop stalling and threatens to kill anyone who doesn't cooperate with the hero. Desperate, the butler accuses him of madness, saying that this is a robbery, but the hero retorts, reminding him that his mistress authorized him to do whatever he wanted. He looks at his hand and sees the emblem is still glowing, thinking he can do anything with it. With a wicked smile, he says that now he finally feels like a real hero. Outraged, the butler accuses him of being an imposter and orders the guards to remove him. The captain of the guard confirms the order, shouting that he will carry it out. But Aries faces him with a smile, telling the guard to calm down and wait a moment. He then reminds everyone that defying the hero's authority is a very serious crime, and he threatens to execute the family of anyone who disobeys, leaving the guard utterly terrified. With a maniacal laugh, Aries orders them to drop the money and line up the women. With no other choice, they hand over bags of money, finding the situation unbelievable. All of a sudden, the lady of the house appears, asking what all the commotion is about. She then stumbles upon the strange scene of the maids and a pile of money in the middle of her floor. The noble woman is completely stunned by the situation, unable to process what she's seeing. Nearby, the maids just stare at the floor, visibly terrified and deeply ashamed. The butler tries to shield her, desperately asking her to return to her room, but Aries shoves him aside and yells for him to get out of the way, demanding to be taken to the noblewoman's room. Livid, the woman shouts, asking what in the world he's talking about, and lets out a horrified scream. Aries arrogantly asks if she too has the guts to defy the great hero, but the noblewoman notices the emblem on his hand and questions if he's even the real hero. He flashes the mark to intimidate her, only to be shocked when he sees it has changed again. Panicking, the so-called hero can't believe the symbol of darkness has reappeared. Everyone in the room becomes enraged, wondering why his emblem has suddenly turned dark. Aries is terrified, realizing his little con has been completely exposed. The noblewoman then orders the guards to seize him, and he bolts to avoid being captured. As he makes a run for it, he screams that he is the hero, completely baffled by what's happening to him. Much later, we see him hobbling down a road, badly injured, and complaining that they actually tried to kill him. Aries can't understand why the emblem keeps changing, especially since the curse was supposed to be permanent. For now, he figures he needs to get out of Austin territory and regroup somewhere else. But upon reaching a town, he sees a crowd looking at a wanted poster. Someone in the crowd recognizes him, pointing out that he's the second son of the Austin family. The poster reveals that Aries is now a wanted man, dead or alive, with a reward on his head. The scene cuts back to the present. A mysterious figure is watching Kai's group from a distance. She's impressed, thinking they're incredibly strong and clearly not your average adventurers. Just as she thinks they might be able to help, a flash of red energy surprises her from behind. Griselda traps her with magic and bluntly asks what she's doing there. The girl is petrified with the elf's blood magic, held right at her neck. Griselda threatens her, demanding to know if she's an agent of the Holy Church. The spy stammers, trying to explain herself as Griselda's magic tightens its grip, but then Kai tells her to stand down. Griselda is confused by the command, but he explains that he'd been keeping an eye on her and didn't sense any ill will from the girl. The young woman is shocked to learn she'd been spotted, unable to hide her surprise. Kai goes on saying he saw her at the tavern and also knows she's a demon. With her cover blown, she removes her hood and reveals her ears, confirming that she's been found out. The demon girl lowers her head, a bit embarrassed about being caught so easily. Sasha asks why she was following them, and the girl apologizes for scaring them. She introduces herself as Mia and asks a question. She wants to know if by any chance they're also after a woman named Elsa. Mia turns to Kai and says she needs to ask him a very important favor. She explains that her sister was captured by Elsa and begs him to save her. Kai stays silent for a moment, carefully weighing the girl's request. Griselda then steps in and asks her to share more details about her story. The scene shifts to the former Demon King's territory inside a dark mithril mine. Inside, dozens of demons are being forced to work as slaves without any rest. Watching from hiding, Griselda is horrified by the sight, finding it all completely unforgivable. Kai asks Mia if she was also a slave there, and she confirms it. She says the mine collapsed and many demons were buried alive in the accident. Mia recalls that she barely made it out alive, and that's how she managed to escape from a man named Edgar. The name catches Kai's attention, and he immediately asks who this man is. She explains that he's the supervisor, and Kai figures he must be one of Elsa's subordinates. He then asks if she knows anything else like his fighting style. She replies that his class, if she remembers correctly, is Grand Mage. The news shocks everyone, and Mia says this is a huge problem since that class is so powerful. Kai realizes that underestimating a Grand Mage would be a very dangerous mistake. Just then, Sasha gets back from patrol and Kai asks what's wrong, noticing she looks extremely pale. Frantically, she shouts that she was spotted by the enemy and had to burn through all her magic in the fight. He's relieved she's safe, but is concerned she used up all her energy on patrol. He then opens his skills screen, trying to think of a way to help her recover. The MP Drain skill pops up, which is used to steal magical energy from others. With a little smirk, Kai realizes this skill might just do the trick, and quickly comes up with a plan. The system screen announces the skill has been acquired, and he uses his magic on Sasha. He explains that he just shared one of his skills with her, leaving the elf totally bewildered. Kai then reveals that the skill is MP Drain, and that he's going to transfer his energy to her. She panics at the idea, not wanting to take any of Sir Kai's precious magical energy. It's explained to us that the skill can actually be used in reverse to donate energy to an ally. He asks her to bear with him, explaining that it's for both recovery and strategic purposes. But Kai, our protagonist, has a secret ulterior motive for this whole thing. Sasha sits down and is immediately surprised as she feels magical energy flowing into her. She activates her MP Drain skill, which pulls Kai's magic toward her in a red aura. Totally impressed, she feels her energy surging and declares she's back to 100%. Kai's just happy she's okay, thinking to himself that her skill barely puts a dent in his mana pool. He quickly changes the subject, asking how her patrol went. She reports seeing a caravan near the mine, its cages filled with demons. The scene flashes to demon children trapped in cages, clearly destined to be sold as slaves. Absolutely furious, Griselda roars that they have to rescue them immediately. But just as she's about to charge in a desperate, Mia grabs her and begs her to wait. Mia warns that the caravan likely belongs to Edgar, and rushing in without a plan would be suicide. Griselda reassures her, promising that as the former lord of this land, she will save Mia's sister and everyone else. Moved by this declaration, Mia hopefully asks if she really means it. Hearing this, Griselda puffs up with pride, remembering her old title and the duty that came with it. The realization dawns on Mia, this is the famous Griselda. She immediately turns to Sir Kai, begging him to help. With a confident smile, he agrees, declaring they'll save every last prisoner. But before they can head out, Kai suddenly places his hand on Griselda's neck, shocking everyone. Kai explains he's just sharing a skill with Griselda, channeling his magic into her. She instantly recognizes the skill as MP Drain, and notes how useful it will be. With the team now fully prepped, Kai announces they're ready to take on the Grand Mage. To save Colette, they need allies, and this rescue mission is the perfect first step. The plan is simple: free the oppressed demons and recruit them as new allies. The scene cuts to a cruel guard whipping a cat girl who swears he will pay for his cruelty. The guard just lets out a horrible sadistic laugh, clearly enjoying her suffering. We see a lone carriage crossing a desolate wasteland being pulled by that same young slave girl. Suddenly, she stumbles and collapses, too weak to go on. From inside the carriage, the Grand Mage Edgar calls out, demanding to know why she's stalling. Terrified, the girl can only whisper an apology, but he's not having any of it. With a sadistic grin, he asks if she wants another round of treatment. He then unleashes an electric shock, and she screams in agony from the jolt. Her body lies smoking on the ground after the cruel punishment. He then yells that if they don't reach their destination on time, her younger sister will be sold off. Desperate, she pleads with him to leave her sister alone, promising to hurry. Fueled by desperation, the girl scrambles back to her feet and starts running, pulling the carriage with every ounce of her strength. The mage Edgar simply watches on with a wicked, satisfied smirk. It's revealed that her sister is already dead. He's just using the lie to control her. As he cackles about his clever scheme, a guard inside the carriage tells him to be careful. Irritated, Edgar whips around asking what the guard Walter just said. Inside, we see Kai disguised as Walter, who calmly asks if their top priority is really the demon's safety. Kai points out that Elsa is suspicious of the so-called Demon King, meaning they might run into him, but Edgar just scoffs at the idea. He boasts that no one would be stupid enough to pick a fight with Elsa's group. Meanwhile, inside the carriage, Kai and the other guards sit in tense silence. Edgar then starts bragging about his magic barrier, claiming it's completely impenetrable and that no one can get close to them. Kai just rolls his eyes, already sick of the mage's non-stop bragging. Up ahead, the slave girl falters again. Edgar immediately threatens her, asking if she's looking for another beating. But as he prepares to unleash his magic, he realizes something is terribly wrong. The magical energy gathering at his fingertip just fizzles out. Completely baffled, he tries again, only to realize with dawning horror that none of his spells are working. From inside the carriage, one of the guards shouts Edgar's name, sensing the sudden shift in the air. The man bursts out of the carriage, demanding to know what happened to the barrier. Edgar starts to panic as he confirms his powerful magic shield has completely vanished. He yells for everyone to stay on high alert, warning them that the situation has just become critical. Right on cue, Kai leaps out of the carriage with a grimly determined look, ready to face whatever is coming. A guard yells, "Walter, walk," in surprise, and in that same instant, Edgar is violently thrown from his seat on the carriage. He hits the ground hard, screaming in pain with no idea what just hit him. With the carriage stopped, the cat girl finds herself free from the reins, staring in wide-eyed fear at the unfolding chaos. Edgar scrambles to his feet, groaning in pain and demanding to know what's going on. Just then, a blonde elf appears, bow in hand, and coolly asks if he's the infamous Edgar she's heard so much about. He's taken aback by her powerful aura and figures she must be behind the attack. The mage curses his rotten luck, getting ambushed the one time his magic decided to take a vacation. Panicked, one of the guards rushes over to him, warning that the situation is terrible for them. He explains that all their magic has been completely drained, leaving Edgar in total shock. Edgar can't believe his mana is gone, until a red blur suddenly zips past and attacks him. He spins around in fear, toward the attack, unable to see who was responsible. Just then, the elf Griselda dashes by and rescues the cat girl, hoisting her onto her shoulder. She glances back with a smirk, saying that the plan seems to have worked out perfectly. Edgar despairs as he watches them take the slave and wonders if there are more enemies. The scene cuts to Kai, who tells Griselda that the girl is safe, and now they just need to finish the job. Edgar becomes furious when he spots Kai, wondering where another human came from to mess up his plans. He then screams at his guards, ordering them to stop the invaders at once. But one of them replies in a panic, explaining that they can't use magic right now. At that, Edgar remembers that the only person there who can fight without magic is the swordsman Walter. The swordsman then approaches the blonde elf, carrying his giant sword casually on his shoulder. He turns to the women and apologizes, saying, "Nothing personal, this is just my job." With that, Walter charges forward and attacks the elf with a swift and powerful strike. The girl is shocked by his speed, realizing this enemy is quite strong. He then taunts her, asking with a sadistic look if she thinks she can dodge the next one. Walter unleashes a precise horizontal slash, forcing the elf to dodge at the very last second. Edgar celebrates, thinking she was hit, while the elf looks ahead with a terrified expression. But suddenly, Kai appears in front of her, blocking the attack with his magic sword. The swordsman is in utter disbelief and asks how he managed to stop his blade and who they are. He recognizes the dark magic sword and wonders if Kai could be the real Demon King. Edgar yells for Walter to finish him off, but suddenly his throat is slit from behind. Griselda appears behind Edgar and gets him in a chokehold, saying the fight is over for him. The mage gasps for air, only managing to whisper the swordsman's name, Walter. Seeing that the battle is lost, Walter throws his sword to the ground and surrenders, raising his hands. He is then tied up by the blonde elf, while Kai watches everything with a cold gaze. Edgar crawls on the ground and begs them to stop asking what it is they want from him. Desperate, he offers them the slaves and says he'll do anything they want to spare his life. Kai then replies that it's fine, as he holds no personal grudge against the man, but says he'll let the slave girls decide what to do with him. He then asks if they agree. Edgar turns to the girls, saying he's sure they are all very grateful to him. He even tries to manipulate them, reminding them how well he supposedly took care of them all. With a sick smile, he starts talking about what he did with them every single night. The mage asks if it wasn't the best, but the girls just stare at him in disgust, their eyes filled with hatred. All the slaves shout in unison that he must die. Some of them can't believe the man's audacity, finding the whole situation unbelievable. Lying on the ground, Edgar repeats the word shocked, that his fate has just been sealed by his victims. Hearing the girl's verdict, Kai simply says that it's all decided then. Edgar cries on the ground, lamenting that he still had so much more he wanted to do with the cat girls. But suddenly, a skeletal red hand touches his shoulder, terrifying him. A dark creature emerges from the shadows, ready to claim the cruel man's soul. Edgar's soul is pulled from his body, which falls lifeless to the ground, ending his reign of terror for good. Kai dusts his hands off, remarking that seeing the man's cruelty disgusted him. Just then, the two elves approach him. Overjoyed with the outcome of the rescue mission, Griselda celebrates excitedly, saying their plan was a huge success in the end. But Kai gives them the credit, saying everything worked out thanks to the two of them. The scene shifts, showing Kai's hand glowing with the ability he shared. In a flashback, it's revealed that the skill sharing was completed, and Griselda confirms she can now use Mona Drain. Kai then explains they need to proceed with the plan while considering the enemy's class. The target was Edgar, a grand mage, which made the mission that much more dangerous. Kai says fighting head-on would be too risky, and that's where the Mona Drain ability comes in. Griselda explains the idea is to steal all his magical power, because without it, a mage is just an ordinary human. Kai agrees with the other elf's concern, but says he has a way to handle it. The solution was to watch the wagon from a distance, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. He then gives the signal, telling the two of them to get ready to use the ability. The plan was simple. The three of them would use Mona Drain at the same time to completely deplete the mage's magic. The scene returns to the present. At the moment, Edgar's magic vanishes, leaving him completely baffled by the situation. Griselda laughs uncontrollably, saying the desperate look on his face was absolutely hilarious when they drained all his mana. We learn that without his magical power, the first thing Edgar noticed was his barrier vanishing. The blonde elf points out that without magic, the other guards are pretty much useless in a fight. Griselda then chimes in, telling Kai that with her and Sasha together, she feels like they're totally unbeatable. But Kai knows that while they're strong, it won't be enough to defeat Jan. He'll need to get even stronger. Pushing that thought aside, he confidently announces it's time to free the demons. The group then moves the carriage to a more secluded spot to let the prisoners out. They swing open the cage doors, finally freeing all the enslaved demons. Griselda asks if that's everyone, and the other elf confirms she thinks they've gotten them all. However, she notes that they all look completely wiped out and wonders what their next move should be. Elsewhere, the captured guards realize they've been stripped of all their weapons and gear. One of them groans that even if they manage to break free, he doubts they could actually escape from their captors. Walter silently concludes that staying put is a death sentence. Hiding nearby, young Mia wonders if it's finally safe to come out. One guard, however, flashes a wicked smile, already cooking up a plan to escape. Noticing their exhaustion, Kai declares that everyone needs some serious healing. A soothing purple aura then envelops the demons, restoring the energy of everyone who had been mistreated. He thinks to himself that he needs to find powerful demons to recruit for Colette's rescue mission. Suddenly, young Marurl appears, shouting with relief that Kai and Griselda are safe. The cat girl who was pulling the carriage cries out her name, overjoyed to be reunited with her sister. But the guards seize the opportunity, using the distraction to activate an ability and break free from their ropes. One of them immediately lunges for Marurl, taking her hostage right in front of everyone. The little girl freezes, panicking at the sudden attack. Her older sister can only watch in terror, unsure of how to help. Griselda and the other elf are absolutely furious, yelling at the guard for pulling such a cowardly move. He just laughs, gloating that with a hostage, the tables have turned. But Kai calmly asks if he's so sure about that, just as a familiar materializes behind the man. The guard ignores him and issues a threat telling them to let him go if they want the girl to live. Marul's sister's expression suddenly changes, replaced by a wild, unexpected fury. In the blink of an eye, she strikes the guard, who doesn't even have time to process what happened. The other soldier is completely floored by the scene. Music. He can't believe the cat girl's incredible speed. Even Kai is taken aback, wondering how she moved so fast. The remaining guard retaliates, using a skill to launch a volley of magic stones at her. Seeing the imminent danger, Marul screams desperately. Music. Warning her sister to watch out. But her sister dodges every single projectile, with inhuman agility not getting a scratch. The guard is enraged, baffled as to how she possibly avoided all the stones. Suddenly, a beam of light slams into him head-on, taking him out before he can even react. Griselda cheers excitedly, praising the cat girl for taking them down without a scratch. Kai is definitely impressed by her moves, thinking that this will certainly help his plans move forward. At this, Walter grumbles that you should never underestimate the dormant power of the cat tribe. The scene focuses on Marul, who's looking up at her older sister with tear-filled eyes. She runs into her sister's arms, apologizing for trying to help, only to get herself caught. But the older one comforts her, saying it's okay as long as she's safe now. Kai watches the heartwarming reunion with a smile, glad the two are back together. The two sisters approach Kai, and the older one thanks him from the bottom of her heart for everything he's done. He just smiles and says she should be thanking Griselda, who gets all flustered by the praise. Her embarrassment quickly turns to excitement as she declares it's time to introduce everyone to the new Demon King. Kai gives her a serious, focused look and simply agrees she's right. He then turns to the assembled demons, telling them that the church treats them like nothing more than loveless monsters. Everyone looks confused by this, and one of the girls specifically questions the loveless part. The sisters also begin to wonder if what the church preaches about them is really true. Kai opens his arms and begins his speech, saying that the ones who truly have hearts and know love. He turns back to the crowd of demons and finishes his thought, declaring that, in reality, they are the ones who fit that description. With that bombshell, Kai reveals his grand plan to create an ideal nation right in the demon realm. This revelation leaves everyone speechless, while a tied-up Walter can only repeat the word nation in total shock. Kai declares it will be a place where demons can live without prejudice, and that he will be their new demon king. Walter is stunned by the young man's audacity, asking what he just said. Griselda's eyes are filled with admiration as she proudly shouts her new master's name. With a confident smile, Kai announces their next objective, reclaiming the Myethil mine. The freed demons just stare at him, still trying to process everything they've just heard. He then calls upon all who can fight to prepare themselves, because they are about to start reclaiming their nation. Walter lies there tied to the ground, completely shocked by the young man's ambition. Meanwhile, the elf Sasha looks at him with admiration. Finding it a wonderful sight, Griselda turns her face away, flustered with a mix of embarrassment and pride for her master. Sasha tells her not to mind it, as she was just very happy about the speech. With the speech finished, Kai turns to decide what to do with the prisoner. He then approaches Walter and says he needs to decide his punishment. The swordsman just closes his eyes in silence, accepting his fate without complaint. Then he opens his eyes and says he has no attachment to life, telling Kai to just get it over with. Kai is surprised by his attitude and says that in that case, he has already made a decision. But suddenly, the older sister runs up to him, asking him to wait a moment. With a serious look, she begs him to please spare the man's life. Kai is confused and asks Melty why she's defending the swordsman Walter. She explains that the man actually ended up helping all the prisoners. We're shown that he gave them food and even treated the girl's wounds. Melty says he protected them from Edgar's cruelty, and that's why he's not a bad person. Intrigued, Kai asks Walter why a human like him would help demons. The man replies it was just out of pity, making Kai even more curious about his answer. He questions if they deserve to be oppressed just because they were born as demons. Walter then says that's ridiculous, since no one chooses how they're born. With disgust music, he finishes by saying this whole prejudice situation is simply sickening. At that, Kai asks what his class is, and Walter reveals he's a dark knight. He explains that because he has a dark attribute, his class was the worst for a holy knight. It was all the fault of the God-chosen class which dominated the knightly order. Filled with hatred, Walter recalls that because of this, he lost someone precious to him. Kai seems to understand the man's pain, listening silently with an empathetic look. In a flashback, a superior humiliates him, saying he'd never be promoted with that kind of power. The superior laughs, maliciously saying that if he had just stayed quiet, the woman wouldn't have died. Walter is shocked and utterly furious as he remembers that tragic moment. With rage, he grinds his teeth and screams as all the blame fell on him. Kai then asks who this precious person was that the knight had mentioned earlier. With a sad look, Walter reveals that the woman was his fiancée who was killed. Hearing this, Kai remembers Colette and finally understands the man's pain. He realizes they are the same, and so he asks if Walter would agree to serve him. Walter is surprised and asks if he's being music. Asks to betray Elsa, but Kai denies it. The young man then explains that the invitation is to betray the Holy Kingdom alongside him. Kai repeats his dream of creating a free nation where everyone could live without prejudice. After listening, Walter gives a slight smile, finding the whole idea quite interesting. Just then, a knife cuts the ropes binding him, finally freeing him to fight. The Dark Knight then stands up and swears total loyalty to the new Demon King. The scene shows Walter now as a new and powerful ally for Kai's group. Melty smiles, knowing he will be a very strong asset for Lord Kai. Kai announces he will also give Melty the Demon General class, leaving her in shock. He explains that she is strong, and to retake the mine, they'll need a lot of firepower. Sasha then gets excited, already imagining her new master's next move. At that, Kai says he will use the subordinate demon contract to increase their strength. With the preparations complete, the battle at the mine would be much more favorable for his group. The scene then shows us the Dark Knights guarding the location. Ready to fight Melty, she declares with conviction that she will prove her worth to repay Kai's kindness. He's a little surprised by her attitude, but he understands her strong determination. Thus, Walter receives the Demon General class and Melty the Demon Captain class. Kai then turns and asks with a serious look if they are both ready for the plan. She replies yes, and that the lives he saved are prepared to fight by his side. Walter adds that his sword now belongs solely to the new Demon King. With a glow in his hand, Kai finally consents and seals the contract with his new generals. The scene shifts to the Myathil mine fortress, heavily guarded by enemy knights. Walter arrives in the cart shouting for them to open the gate, claiming something terrible has happened. One of the guards asks what happened, while Walter yells for them to hurry up and open it. Up above the fortress guards just watch the scene, not understanding the urgency. But their leader gets irritated with the delay and shouts for them to open the gates. Now at that, the huge wooden gates of the mine finally begin to open. Walter and Melty exchange a look, maintaining the tension to make their disguise work. The cart then enters the fortress, passing through the main entrance without any issues. The guard leader keeps a wary eye on everything from his perch up above. Down below, they roll the cart into a shed looking for all the world, like they're just bringing in new prisoners. But then the leader descends to confront Walter, ordering him to stop right in his tracks. Hidden inside the cart, Kai and Griselda brace themselves, sensing that things are about to kick off. With a stern look, the man demands to know where the mage Edgar is. Walter just silently averts his gaze, letting the tension thicken. Finding the whole situation incredibly suspicious, the guard leader orders his men to search the cart. Walter plays along, gesturing for one of the guards to go check the cargo. The soldier approaches the cart's door, completely oblivious to what's waiting for him. The guard swings the door open cockily, boasting that no one would ever dare challenge Elsa's faction. But as he peers inside, he's greeted by the sight of Kai and the elves, casually sitting on top of an unconscious guard. With a cool and determined look, Kai simply announces that the operation has officially begun. In the next instant, the cart door blasts off its hinges, smacking the guard square in the face. The captain doesn't even have time to react before he's hit by an attack that sends him flying. Furious at the betrayal, he roars for the troops to assemble and set up barriers. The soldiers scramble into battle formation as archers take their positions on the walls. The captain screams with pure hatred, ordering his men to kill every last one of the invaders. In response, Walter charges forward fearlessly, rushing his former captain with his axe raised. With a single precise strike, he takes down the guard leader, who crumples to the ground dead. The soldiers panic, shocked to see their captain defeated so easily. Walter turns to the Demon King, assuring him that they've got this and that he can move on ahead. With a smile, Kai thanks him and says he'll leave the rest of the fight in their capable hands. The group presses deeper into the fortress as guards try to block their way, but Walter and Sasha stay behind to hold the line against any enemies that appear. With a confident grin, Walter declares that no enemy will make it out of there to tell the tale. Meanwhile, Kai's group sprints through the fortress toward a building that's emitting an intense glow. They finally reach their destination, the infamous prison where all the demon slaves were being held. Melty gets closer, realizing it's a magical barrier and that brute force won't be enough to break it, but Kai seems completely unfazed. He simply draws his sword and unleashes a powerful strike against the barrier. The energy shield shatters into a million pieces, and the group storms the area without any trouble. The two girls are in total shock that the barrier was obliterated in a single instant, all thanks to Kai's overwhelming power. He then announces that he and Melty will secure the area, telling Griselda to push forward. The elf runs on ahead while Kai squares off against the guards who were protecting the prison entrance. One of the captains staggers to his feet, yelling at the boy not to get cocky just because of one small victory. With a malicious grin, he warns that even if they free the slaves, it's all for nothing. It's revealed that the mine's main forces will be returning soon from their hunting expedition, and leading that army is a man with the rare Dragon Knight class. The scene focuses on the knight's hand, which bears the same dark mark as Kai and Walter. In front of the prison, the knight in golden armor scoffs, laughing at the idea that Kai could possibly be a threat. He screams that the Dragon Knights are on their way, and that Kai is as good as dead. But Kai calmly retorts that they should already be in combat by now. The scene cuts to a marching army that spots a signal flare, prompting them to pick up the pace. One of the soldiers reports that the Dragon Knights went on ahead and they're right behind them. Back at the prison, Kai cracks a sly grin, revealing that the main force has already been handled. Just then in the forest, a group of knights with glowing red eyes appears, catching the soldiers completely by surprise. The men begin to panic as they realize it's an ambush, wondering where these enemies could have possibly come from. We then learn that these are elite soldiers from the Holy Church itself. One of the knights is startled, recognizing the armor and questioning if they're actually holy knights. But before he can get an answer, he's brutally cut down by one of the undead. The battle erupts, and the soldiers realize the terrifying truth, shouting that these things aren't human. Desperate, one of them warns everyone not to fight them head-on, explaining that each one is incredibly strong. Another soldier tries to be optimistic, saying they still have the numbers advantage, but he's cut down immediately after. The commander is in shock, realizing his man died from just a superficial scratch. It's then we discover that Kai had given his undead the Reaper's Touch skill. In a full-blown panic, the soldiers start screaming for a retreat, unable to fight back. Back in the city, Kai confirms that the enemy's main force is done for. And now all that's left is for him to turn with a serious look, ready to handle the rest of the problem right here. The scene shifts, and with just one powerful blow, the Golden Knight is sent crashing to the ground, completely defeated. Inside, Melty stands her ground and declares they shall not pass, revealing the mark on her own hand. She then feels a new energy surge through her, realizing the contract has already made her stronger. But her focus is shattered by an overwhelming presence that appears out of thin air. From the rooftop, a knight mounted on a colossal red dragon makes a surprise entrance. It's revealed that he's a Dragon Knight, an extremely rare and powerful class. The knight orders his dragon to turn the demon into a pile of ashes. To escape the attack, the girl leaps high into the air, narrowly dodging the fiery blast. The sheer power of the breath attack destroys everything in its path, leaving Melty shocked by such raw force. With a malicious grin, the knight shouts that slaves should know their place and stay quiet. Without hesitation, the dragon unleashes several fireballs, obliterating everything in its path. Melty desperately scrambles for safety, trying to escape the explosions erupting around her. She screams that it's impossible to fight them since dragon knights can fly and breathe fire. But from a distance, Kai begins to cast a spell calling on the abyss to swallow his enemies. Just then, two black holes appear in the sky and begin to absorb the flames, leaving Melty completely stunned. The cat girl looks back, totally confused and wondering what's going on. The black hole then sucks in all the fire, completely neutralizing the dragon's attack. From above, the knight is outraged, yelling that his fireballs were just sucked into a hole. He looks down and recognizes Kai, pointing an angry finger in our hero's direction. Furious, the knight dives with his dragon, screaming that he's going to wipe him off the face of the earth. Melty then runs to Kai and warns him that the enemy is dangerous, urging him to retreat. But Kai simply questions her, reminding her, "Didn't we come here to free the demons?" The girl is left speechless by his response, her face a mask of complete surprise. Annoyed, the knight decides he's had enough of long-range attacks and readies himself for a direct assault. He then charges straight at Kai, ready to end the fight once and for all. Meanwhile, back in the prison, Griselda shatters her chains, preparing to free everyone. The beastman next to her is impressed, seeing that she broke the shackles with her bare hands. Then Griselda shouts for everyone to run, telling them to take the chance they've been given to escape. But suddenly, a dragon's shadow in the window terrifies the prisoners, sending them into a panic. The elf realizes the Dragon Knight has returned, and the others lose all hope of escaping. Outraged, Griselda shouts for everyone to be silent, reminding them they came to reclaim their nation. She then declares that their time of submission is over, and the time has come to win back their freedom. Outside, the knight grows angrier and warns that Kai will deeply regret ever challenging him. But before he can attack, a giant fireball materializes, heading straight for him. Kai returns the attack with interest, launching a powerful blast of hellfire right at the dragon. It's a direct hit, causing a massive explosion that illuminates the entire night sky. From the impact, the dragon is severely wounded, its mouth completely mangled and smoking. With no other choice, the knight curses in anger and retreats, fleeing the battle. He tries to fly away, but the injured dragon can't handle it and begins to plummet toward the ground. The creature then crashes down, hard landing right in front of Melty, who is frozen with fear. Melty stares in shock at the knight on the ground, who has been brutally defeated. With a trembling hand, she whispers to herself that they actually managed to win. At that moment, Griselda and the other demons appear, shouting Melty's name in celebration. Kai then approaches the girl, who is still on the ground, processing the victory. He tells her with a smile that all her friends are free now. At this, Griselda raises her fist and shouts that they did an amazing job in the battle. Melty is overjoyed to see Griselda and the others safe and sound. Relieved that everyone is safe, the group of demons finally gathers in the courtyard, meeting up with Kai and Melty. Suddenly, Kai receives a notification congratulating him for freeing the demons from Elsa's faction. As a reward, he gains a cool 2,000 experience points while everyone celebrates together. Nearby, the enormous red dragon lies unconscious amidst the smoldering wreckage. With a smile on her face, Melty closes her eyes, thankful that everything worked out in the end. But from a distance, Walter observes everything with a smirk, wondering aloud what Elsa will do now. Kai agrees with him, saying that knowing Elsa, she's definitely going to flip out. The two exchange a knowing look, as Kai seems to be cooking up a very risky idea. He then tells Walter that his suggestion is actually a brilliant idea. Then Kai looks over at the downed dragon and asks with a grin if they shouldn't maybe provoke Elsa just a little bit more. The scene changes and we see a knight reporting to Elsa, who is relaxing in a lavish golden bathtub. He informs her that the Holy Knights are prepared to grant her a noble title and a spot in the hero's party. Upon hearing the news, a smile of pure satisfaction spreads across Elsa's face. She then celebrates, cackling that everything is going exactly according to her plan. It's then revealed that Elsa is an ultra-rare class magic swordswoman, and she absolutely can't stop smiling about it. She thinks about how attached she's grown to the castle, feeling it's way too good for someone like Griselda. With that, Elsa stands up and gets out of the tub, strolling through the luxurious room. She then turns to a servant and asks if even a so-called useless demon can understand its value. With a sadistic grin, Elsa grabs the rabbit girl servant, demanding that she say something. Terrified, the servant replies that the castle is a perfect match for Lady Elsa. The redhead gives a chilling smile, asking, "It's obvious I'm right, isn't it?" Suddenly, the mark on her hand begins to glow, and she uses it to burn the servant's arm. The servant screams in agony and begs for her to stop, but Elsa just shrieks at her to be quiet. With a completely unhinged look, the villainess lets out a loud, evil laugh. We then learn that she takes great pleasure in tormenting girls she finds cute. Elsa boasts about her power, saying everything has been going her way ever since she obtained her rare class. She then pictures herself mingling with the nobles, thinking she'll soon have all the money and power in the world. Her soldiers celebrate with her, all of them thrilled about their future conquests. To celebrate, Elsa orders the best wine from the cellar, declaring it's going to be a long night. She then raises a bottle, laughing that a single sip is worth their entire salary. But just then, a loud crash from the ceiling interrupts the party, startling everyone. Elsa looks up, trying to figure out what that strange sound that came out of nowhere was. At that moment, a soldier runs into the room, shouting for Lady Elsa's help. He desperately warns that the castle is being invaded by several terrible monsters. Before they can react, a huge explosion shatters the wall, sending debris flying everywhere. Elsa stands amidst the smoke and rubble, wondering just what kind of monster could have done that. Through the new hole in the wall, the head of a massive zombie dragon appears, staring everyone down. She is completely terrified, as she had no idea such a monster even existed in the region. That's when the dragon reveals he is the Demon King Kai, and that the mithril mine is now his. Hearing Kai's name, Elsa freezes in shock, completely paralyzed by fear. The dragon then explains that he now serves a new master, leaving everyone in shock. One of the soldiers recognizes the dragon, wondering if their own knight has been defeated. Kai then reveals that since she took his life and his beloved Colette, he will take everything from her in return. Angrily, Elsa yells that she has no idea what he's talking about, completely refusing to believe it. She then declares that she hates when people take her things and that she can't wait to show him what happens. The dragon prepares to attack, warning that he has a special little gift for her. He then fires a blast of dark energy designed to make her suffer infinite pain. The technique's name is revealed to be Cursed Breath, a deadly magical attack. Elsa panics, knowing she can neither dodge nor block the curse. Without a second thought, she shoves one of her soldiers in front of her to use as a human shield. The man screams in despair as he realizes Lady Elsa has betrayed him just an instant before being engulfed by the magic. Elsa screams from a safe distance as the dragon continues its attack without mercy. But filled with rage, Elsa grabs her sword and engulfs it in powerful flames. She then unleashes her special technique, the powerful Crimson Flame Slash. The blow cuts through the floor in a wave of fire, showcasing the swordswoman's incredible strength. Even after the attack, Elsa can't believe the mithril mine has truly been taken from her. Filled with hatred, she decides she will finish off the Demon King and vows to kill him very slowly. Lying on the ground, the injured soldier asks why she used him as a shield, but Elsa just yells at him to shut up. She snaps that he's still alive, so he shouldn't be complaining. She then turns and orders all her soldiers to assemble for a counterattack. With that, she announces they're heading to the mine right now, assuming Kai must be unprepared. The cursed soldier continues to suffer while she assumes Kai thinks the curse worked. But as she was leaving, a guard comes running reporting that the rare wine cellar was completely empty. Elsa is left speechless at the sight, shaking with rage. She realizes the Demon King is taking everything from her piece by piece. With a furious glare, Elsa swears that she will never ever forgive him for what he's done. Swearing vengeance, Elsa gallops off with her troops, determined to make them pay. Along the way, she sees her defeated soldiers and swears again she won't forgive this. They finally reach the mine's entrance, ready to launch their surprise attack. With a furious expression, she screams about how he dared to take her mine. She then grinds her teeth, whispering the Demon King's name, Kai Austin, with pure hatred. But as they approach the gate, they hear the distinct sound of a party coming from inside. One of the soldiers is confused, wondering what that noise is inside the mine. Another asks if they're actually daring to throw a party in there. Elsa goes completely ballistic, wondering how far they'll go to mock her. She then raises her flaming sword and commands her men to take them all down. With a single mighty swing, the redhead blows the gate wide open, clearing the path for her revenge. She then roars for them to pay with their blood, promising to leave no woman or child alive. But upon entering, she only finds two demons who look completely surprised to see her. The two of them desperately scamper off, leaving Elsa totally baffled by the whole situation. Suddenly, Walter appears in midair, announcing that she has finally arrived. Without warning, Walter dives at Elsa with a powerful strike from above the gate. It's then she realizes this was all a well-planned trap. But the skilled swordswoman manages to defend herself at the very last second, showing off her incredible reflexes. In that moment, she recognizes him. It's the face of her former guildmate. Walter just smirks and asks if she can stop his next attack. The two of them trade blows, and the sheer force of the impact creates a small shockwave. He gets annoyed that she blocked him again, his frustration clearly showing. Furious, Elsa demands to know how much the Demon King paid him to commit such a betrayal. But Walter completely ignores the question, instead pulling a mysterious syringe from his pocket. With her power boosted, she charges straight for him, ready to end this fight. Moving at blinding speed, she closes the distance, preparing to land the final blow on the traitor. In a flash, she appears right behind him and asks what he thinks happens to traitors. Her sword ignites as she prepares to use her Crimson Flame technique. But as she turns, she sees the fortress guards now have grim, glowing red eyes. Elsa can't believe it, wondering if her own fortress guards have betrayed her as well. One of her loyal soldiers screams in pure terror, collapsing to the ground, completely petrified. Elsa then realizes they're dead and have been turned into undead. Even surrounded, the swordswoman isn't fazed and prepares to face the horde alone. Just then, one of her men shouts that a massive army has set an ambush for them. The soldiers begin to panic as they recognize their former comrades among the undead. Meanwhile, some distance away, Walter is on one knee, looking exhausted after their first clash. Angrily, Elsa accuses him of wiping out all of her subordinates, but she gives a confident smirk, warning that a few undead aren't enough to stop her. That's when Kai appears and says he'd have to disagree, activating a magic circle bearing his personal mark. He casts the poison swamp spell, and the ground beneath Elsa instantly turns into a bubbling purple liquid. The redhead looks down, completely shocked and unable to understand what's happening. Her soldiers yell for her to be careful as the ground has become a sinking swamp. The undead don't even hesitate and charge right at the trapped soldiers. Music. Suddenly, one of the men feels his body growing weak, having no idea why. Elsa immediately puts it all together, screaming in horror that it's a deadly poison. From atop the gate, Kai confirms that she figured it out quickly, adding that it's a paralysis poison. With pure hatred in her eyes, Elsa screams music, demanding to know if he is truly the feared Demon King. She's bewildered, questioning how it's possible, since he looks completely human. Then it dawns on her that he possesses the power of a grand mage, leaving her even more shocked. One of her men yells that their situation is hopeless and that they need to retreat immediately. But Elsa tells him to shut it and orders everyone to drive back the undead. Frustrated, she decides she'll just turn everything into a sea of fire, even her own allies. She then tries to activate her fire magic, but immediately realizes something is wrong. Desperate, she wonders why she can't use her magic at all. She considers if it's the swamp, but feels that this sensation's different. As it turns out, Sasha is draining her mana from a distance using a long-range spell. Annoyed, Elsa decides that if magic won't work, she'll just have to cut them all down. Her soldiers scream her name as they're mercilessly attacked by the undead. One by one, they are dragged down into the swamp. Completely helpless, Elsa watches in fury as her elite soldiers are all wiped out. Surrounded, Elsa glares at the undead horde and her own men trapped within the poison swamp. Seeing no other way out, she decides it's time to play her trump card. But Kai already saw it coming, remarking that Elsa always resorts to limit break when she's cornered. She's stunned, wondering how he could possibly know her secret as he taunts her to go ahead and use it. With a look of pure, unadulterated hatred, the swordswoman prepares to unleash her true power. She cracks a sinister smile and accepts the Demon King's challenge. One of her soldiers tries to stop her, but she just screams that she doesn't care and tells him to shut up. Her hand begins to glow with a menacing red energy as she warns him that he will regret this. Her soldiers plead with her to stop, knowing that such power will kill all of them along with her enemies. Ignoring their pleas, she raises her hand and finally activates Limit Break. Elsa's mana begins to surge, concentrating into her palm for an attack. She then unleashes an immense blast of energy, sending all the nearby soldiers flying. One of the warriors is left in total shock, unable to process what just happened. She faces her enemies with a furious gaze, ready for whatever comes next. From his perch high above Kai, simply watches the redhead unleash her absurd amount of power. He maintains a calm expression, coolly analyzing his opponent's strength. This skill triples all her stats for 5 minutes. Her soldiers panic, warning that Kai could get caught in the crossfire. But she ignores the warning, yelling that she doesn't care about that right now. Then her sword is enveloped in flames as she prepares for a devastating slash. A guard panics as he's hit head-on by the warrior's flaming strike. Her attack is so powerful it creates a trail of fire sweeping across the field. Kai realizes that he completely absorbed her magic attack. Suddenly his eyes begin to glow with the same fiery energy. And with that, he sends the power right back, causing a massive explosion on the wall. The warrior despairs, screaming that Kai is actually the Demon King. On the other side, Sasha is shocked and calls out her master's name. The smoke from the explosion begins to clear, revealing the damage that was done. But in the middle of it all, Kai lands on the ground without a single scratch. Elsa is in disbelief, wondering how he could have possibly withstood the attack. He stares back at her with a smug look, showing he felt absolutely nothing. Kai then taunts the elf, asking if she's even sure she hit him before telling her to stop since she's still in her growth phase. Watching from a distance, a soldier fearfully mutters that they are both monsters. Kai then takes a moment to analyze his adversary's strength. We're told that in 5 years he wouldn't be able to stop her, but right now he knows her weakness. Kai then reveals the weak point of her ability. Outraged, she yells for him to shut up and stay away, calling him trash. He crouches down and warns her that she should hurry as 1 minute has already passed. At that, she turns to flee, wondering just how far ahead he had planned everything. A soldier screams in terror, calling Kai the Demon King for all to hear. With that, her warriors surrender and beg to switch sides, saying they can't take it anymore. Elsa is furious at the betrayal, cursing them all as bastards. Kai agrees to the deal, but warns them that they will have to prove their loyalty. The soldiers accept the order immediately, even if it means attacking their former comrade. A shocked Elsa tries to get them to stop this madness. But ignoring her, the warriors advance on Elsa, who is now forced to defend herself. She manages to block the blow, asking if they thought they would get away with this unscathed. Suddenly her body weakens, and she realizes the poison has finally taken effect. Kai reveals that while her skill resisted it at first, the poison swamp is finally working. One soldier grabs her by the neck, saying she's no longer a threat, but Kai orders him to get away from her. And the man obeys the command instantly. The redhead's hair begins to sink into the poison swamp on the ground. Kai thinks to himself that the poison could be useful and that he didn't expect to see her looking so pathetic. With her body paralyzed, Elsa finally collapses. Even on the ground, she continues to glare at him with hatred, refusing to give up. She manages to move, saying she still has one last trick up her sleeve. With her last bit of mana, she yells that she still has magic and purges the poison. Kai is surprised, admitting she is truly very resilient. At that, her sword bursts into flames again, preparing for another attack. She charges with everything she has, delivering a series of flaming slashes at him. With a furious cry, she declares that she is the strongest one there, boasting that she has a super rare class chosen by the gods themselves. Because of that, she shouts with conviction that she is an elite magic swordswoman. But her attack is stopped by Kai, who places a single hand on her chest. He says that even so, a dark mage is about to defeat her. The warrior is in shock, unable to believe what's happening. Then Kai activates his magic, unleashing an attack called Hellfire. The ability pierces Elsa's body from every direction. She screams in pain and spits up blood, finally defeated. Completely broken, Elsa falls to her knees, spitting blood non-stop. She turns to Kai and asks what in the world he is not understanding anything. She also asks what she ever did to him to deserve this. He responds seriously, saying he made a promise a long time ago. She just gives a small smirk, stating she has no idea what he's talking about. But one thing has become clear to her: she admits she cannot defeat him. Kai doesn't understand the sudden change, not knowing what she's going to do. Then Elsa wipes the blood from her mouth, having made an important decision. She tears her own clothes, ripping off the bottom part of her outfit. Then she turns to him with a new look on her face, ready to make a proposal. And with a smile, the redhead asks him to make her his woman. He remains silent, just staring at her after the unexpected proposal. From a distance, Walter and Sasha are shocked by Elsa's audacity. The soldiers are also surprised, unable to believe their former commander's attitude. Kai is still trying to process everything, wondering what his next move should be. Music. She boasts that she's strong and beautiful, telling him he should just accept her. The redhead then tries to move in closer, telling the Demon King to just embrace her, but he blasts her back with a wave of energy, sending her flying. Elsa is irritated by the rejection. Hating that she was just waved off with magic, she tries to advance again, but Kai blocks her, making it clear he wants no contact. He warns her not to mess with him, or next time he'll get serious. Just then, Griselda arrives and explains that the only reason Kai spared her is because he needs her alive. Elsa recognizes her, and Griselda asks if she remembers the face of a slave. With a smile, Elsa retorts, asking if Griselda came back to be sold at the auction again. Kai and the white-haired elf now stand side by side, facing off against the red-haired warrior. Confused, Elsa asks why she's here, and if she's teamed up with the Demon King. Griselda just stares back at the warrior with a cold, emotionless gaze. At that moment, it all clicks for Elsa, and she yells that they must have planned this whole reunion. She grips her sword tighter, preparing for one last attack. Fueled by pure hatred, the redhead charges at the elf, screaming that she's going to kill her. Walter and Sasha look on, worriedly surprised she can even move in her condition. Kai notes that even injured Elsa is still a formidable opponent, but then it's revealed that Griselda is now one of his 4 heavenly kings. The warrior is instantly terrified, feeling the immense power gap between them. Griselda says that normally she would kill her, but today is going to be different. She then launches a mana attack straight at her opponent. The magic binds Elsa, who screams out, asking how she got so strong. The elf then orders her to swear loyalty to Lord Kai if she values her life. As she's being choked, the redhead is in total shock, unable to believe what she's hearing. She feels her power-up starting to fade. As her transformation wears off, the warrior is left completely defenseless. Griselda clenches her fist, tightening the spell's grip on the warrior. With the magic constricting around her neck, Elsa screams in pain as she's slowly suffocated. With no other choice, she screams that she'll swear loyalty to him right now. Kai then adds a condition: she has to hand over her entire fortune to him. The redhead is outraged by this demand, gritting her teeth in pure hatred. But in the end, she accepts. Music. She agrees to the deal, saying it's fine by her. The scene then cuts to a castle that the group has taken over. Inside, a thrilled Griselda is celebrating, shouting with a huge smile that they did it. She takes a seat on the throne, reflecting on how she never thought she'd sit there again. Mia asks if a shorty can really be the Demon King, which irritates Griselda, but Sasha defends her, saying Griselda will just be acting as Kai's representative. Elsewhere, Elsa corners Mia, demanding to know how to break the contract. The terrified cat girl can only reply that she has no idea. Just then, Kai appears and asks Elsa where she thinks betrayal begins. The moment he asks her, collar tightens, causing the redhead immediate pain. He then names her one of the 4 heavenly kings, placing a magical seal on her. Kai clenches his fist, feeling her rage but not caring in the slightest. She, however, swears to herself that one day she'll have his head, she just has to be patient. He explains that this is a servitude contract, and if she ever betrays him, she will die. The warrior panics at this revelation, screaming in disbelief. Defeated, she collapses to the floor, cursing under her breath while the cat girls watch from a distance. Kai turns away, thinking to himself that this is all necessary to rescue Colette. It's revealed that he needs Elsa and her immense power to save his beloved. Her ability is the only thing strong enough to break a powerful barrier. We see that this sacred barrier is so powerful that not even a demon lord can break through it. Kai explains that not even Griselda could manage it, so making the rest of the plan work is up to him. He thinks to himself that it's almost time to act, and that Colette will just have to wait a little longer. Just then, Griselda finds him and reports that the envoy from the Red Scorpion group has arrived. Surprised by their speed, he invites her to join the negotiations with the demons. She says she doesn't mind joining, but asks if he's planning on leaving right after the meeting. He confirms that's the plan, he's getting out of there as fast as he can. Griselda looks at him, sensing his urgency. She then comments that he must be really fond of that girl. Kay keeps a straight face for a moment, thinking about what she said, but then breaks into a smile, confirming that yes, he really does. Hearing his answer, the elf turns and starts walking ahead of him. She says she'll go on ahead and wait for him there. But on the way, Elsa intercepts her, shouting for the Demon King. From a distance, a hooded figure watches their interaction on the balcony. Hiding in the bushes, he can't believe what he's seeing. The man wonders if the mighty Elsa truly lost to the Demon King. Realizing the gravity of the situation, he knows he must report this to Lord Yan immediately. But just as he turns to leave, Mateo appears in his demonic form, blocking his path. He informs the spy that on Kai's orders, his role is being updated, from spy to informant. The man screams in terror as the high-ranking demon attacks him. The spy cries out for his master, but he's captured with no hope of escape. The scene then transitions, focusing on the beautiful details of an elegant dress. Yan's laugh is heard as he comments that the new outfit suits the girl perfectly. It's then revealed that this woman is Colette the Saint, who has been taken hostage. At that moment, a magical necklace on her neck begins to glow. As laughter echoes in the background, the scene flashes back to several days earlier in the kingdom's holy capital. One of the maids compliments Colette, telling her she looks wonderful in the dress, but the girl just maintains a sad expression. Ignoring the compliment, we see a memory of her being captured, screaming for the guards to let her go that instant. She refuses to return to the capital, shouting that her place is with Kai now. Yan then questions her, asking if she means she's with the Demon King. With a cold stare, he informs her that she will never see her beloved again. We return to the present inside the castle, where she is now being held prisoner. Night falls over the kingdom as the full moon shines brightly in the sky. Yan lets out a smug laugh, watching the saint from afar, with a clear air of superiority. He comments on how splendid she looks, praising the girl's beauty in the dress. With a smile, he thinks to himself that as a saint, she is the perfect match for him. But Colette cuts him off, demanding to know what he's planning. Suddenly, another girl rushes into the room, desperately shouting Colette's name. She says she was terribly worried because she heard the saint had been kidnapped by the Demon King. Colette is surprised to see the girl, whom she recognizes as Princess Angelica. Angelica asks if the Demon King hurt her, but the saint immediately tries to explain the misunderstanding. From a distance, Yan watches their conversation with a malicious look. Just then, an older man appears, asking with great concern if Colette is all right. She is surprised to see him there, calling him father, with a tense expression. Yan then interjects, claiming the Demon King has cursed and brainwashed her. The two newcomers are shocked by this revelation, unable to believe what they've just heard. The saint screams that it's a lie, and that Kai would never do that, which tragically activates the curse. Magical chains immediately bind her, and she realizes they are the same ones from before. We're shown that the chains are in fact a spell designed to silence her. Yan simply gives a slight smirk, satisfied that his plan is working perfectly. The princess and her father are terrified, assuming this is the curse he mentioned. Even while bound, she tries to tell them that Kai is a hero who saved them all. She falls to her knees and weakly asks Angelica what's going on with Yan. The princess is confused, asking what she could possibly mean by that. The princess's eyes widen, completely shocked by what's happening. Yan tells her not to listen to Colette, claiming she's not thinking clearly. He continues the lie, saying this is the curse of the wicked Demon King Kai at work. Even Silence the Saint tries to scream Yan's name. Enraged, he asks the princess to go to her room and leave Colette alone until she is calmed down. With a fake look of concern, Yan assures her they will take very good care of Colette. Princess Angelica agrees, though she seems a bit suspicious of the entire situation. With that, the door closes, leaving the saint alone with the two men. Yan turns to the Marquis and says he can see how dire the situation is. Colette's father is petrified by the scene, breaking into a cold sweat. Desperate, Colette begs him to listen, trying to explain that Kai isn't a villain. The man remains frozen, an expression of pure fear and complete despair on his face. Feigning pity, Jan says it's absolutely heartbreaking to see Lady Colette in this state. The maids are also horrified, unable to believe the scene playing out before them. He then reveals his unhinged side, yelling about her running away with the Demon King. Colette desperately shouts that she wasn't deceived by anyone, but Jan just keeps laughing. He says it's impossible for her to be in her right mind. Her father remains silent, just watching the scene with a grim expression. She then begs her father, pleading with him not to be deceived by Jan. In response, the Marquis turns and says he wishes to proceed with their prior arrangement. Jan gives a victorious smile, thanking Colette's father for his wise decision. The saint is confused, asking what they're talking about. He approaches and reveals to her utter shock that he is referring to their engagement. She is completely frozen in a state of shock from the bombshell he just dropped. Jan explains that as the Holy One, he is destined to be with Lady Colette. Her father agrees. He adds that for someone so tainted, this is the best possible outcome. But Colette refuses to accept it, screaming that she belongs to Kai. Outraged, her father yells that Kai has fallen to darkness and attacked his own father. She has no reaction to the news. Completely floored by this revelation, Johann thanks the Marquis for his kindness, and then asks him to leave them alone. With his head lowered, Johann begins to unveil his true plan. He boasts that he now commands the entire church and all of its armies. His voice dropping to a threatening tone, he warns her to think very carefully about whether she truly wants to side with the Demon King. He then questions if a true saint would really stoop to using threats to get her way. But Johann just laughs. He claims that threats are just a natural part of divine justice. We then learn that the prayer room can only be activated with a saint and a holy relic. Sporting a cynical smirk, he thanks her for her cooperation in activating the barrier. He even has the nerve to compliment her, noting that she's still incredibly beautiful, even in a situation like this. For a fleeting moment, Colette thinks that maybe living with him wouldn't be so bad at home, but of course there's a catch. Johann then reveals the true scope of his ambition. He wants absolutely everything, and that includes her unique power as the Saint of Time. He casually tells her not to worry because in the next timeline, she'll belong to him all the same. But the saint screams in despair, yelling that it will never happen. With tears welling up in her eyes, she glares at him with pure hatred, completely refusing to accept her fate. Her one and only thought is of Kai. She wants to be with him, not this monster. She stares at Johann with utter contempt, declaring she would rather die than accept his proposal. He's left completely speechless by her response, unable to process what he just heard. She then warns him that if he tries to force her hand, she will take her own life. Her stubbornness sends him into a rage, and he finds the entire situation utterly ridiculous. Enraged, he grabs her forcefully, yelling that if she follows through with her threat, the Demon King will. But she cuts him right off, shouting that Kai would never lose to a scumbag like him. Johann surprisingly backs down, saying that's fine. After all, he has all the time in the world. Right at that moment, one of his subordinates appears at the doorway, looking extremely concerned. The man enters the room and informs Lord Johann that he has an urgent report. Clearly irritated by the interruption, Johann demands to know what's so important. The soldier apologizes but insists that he cannot discuss the matter in her presence. He clicks his tongue in frustration at being interrupted. With that, Johann hands Colette a book, explaining that it was a request from her maid. The saint remains silent for a moment, simply staring down at the book in her hands. Seizing the opportunity, she makes a break for the door and calls out to Matteo for help. Later, as night falls, the moon illuminates her window, while she desperately wonders what to do. All alone in the massive room, Colette feels completely lost and utterly hopeless. Clutching the book, she wonders if Kai has any idea that she's trapped here. She's filled with regret, thinking that if she hadn't let her guard down, the archdemon wouldn't have been killed. But then something unexpected happens. The book falls open, and a mysterious letter flutters out from between its pages. The saint picks the paper up off the floor, her curiosity piqued, as she reads the message. She's taken aback, wondering what this could possibly be. With her heart pounding, she realizes the letter is from her beloved Kai. He explains that he understands the situation completely, and is already gathering allies to make a move. He ends the letter by apologizing for leaving her alone and promising to rescue her. Colette clutches the letter to her chest, her thoughts filled with Kai as a new sense of hope blossoms within her. With a new fire of determination in her eyes, she vows to herself that she will wait for him. The scene then shifts to a more remote room elsewhere in the castle. There we find Johann scolding Matteo, demanding to know what he was thinking by acting so rashly. He shouts that purifiers are meant to be shadows, and that they should never expose themselves so carelessly. Matteo sighs, wondering if this is all about the failed mission to subjugate the Demon King. Meanwhile, we get a glimpse of Kai's thoughts, reminding us that he knows this is already his enemy's second life. But Mateo reveals it wasn't just a failure, it was a complete annihilation, and he is the sole survivor. Johann is absolutely stunned by this news as 2 guards appear behind him. He can't believe that a Purifier of that caliber was defeated so easily. Immediately, he orders the castle's alert level to be raised and for the troops to be reorganized. Mateo lifts his head and agrees, his eyes ominously glowing a faint shade of blue. Johann approaches a giant set of doors flanked by 2 castle guards. He pushes the heavy gates open with one hand, revealing the chamber within. He reports to the church council, who congratulate him on a job well done regarding the report. Johann remains silent for a moment, simply listening to his superior's orders. The head elder then commands them to gather all hero candidates, including Johann himself, to protect the capital. It is then formally announced that the Demon King will be vanquished by the combined forces of the Holy Church. The knights all kneel in unison and accept the order, promising to faithfully carry out the council's command. Johann realizes this means a large-scale battle against the enemy is imminent. With a confident smirk, he vows that this will finally be the end of the Demon King. The scene shifts once more, this time to the Demon King's castle. We see Mateo returning from his mission and reporting directly to his new master Kai. He informs Kai that the letter was successfully delivered to Colette just as planned. Kai immediately asks about Colette, concerned about her current situation. Mateo explains that she is safe for now, but the security is far too tight to allow for any chance of escape. Model. Clenching his fist, he resolves to rescue her quickly. Mateo then approaches Kai with some papers containing a new report. He explains that it contains confidential information regarding the Holy Capital's defenses. Kai is surprised to learn that, in addition to the barrier, they possess a device that drains mana. We see these devices positioned all along the wall. He realizes that even if they manage to break the barrier, they would be forced to fight without any magic. With this new information, he becomes thoughtful, understanding that the situation is more complex than he initially believed. He instructs Mateo to proceed with the preparations while he formulates their next move. Suddenly, an idea strikes Kai, a look of determination spreading across his face. The scene cuts to Elsa, who is taking a water break from her training. A giant shadow looms over her and a voice asks Music if she is the one they call Elsa. The monster's axe slams into the ground, causing massive damage to the surrounding area. She looks toward a nearby tower, which starts to beep and crack from the impact. With a loud crash, the entire structure gives way, kicking up a huge cloud of dust. The redhead is impressed, acknowledging the incredible power behind the attack. Standing before the rubble, the demon faces the warrior as she prepares for battle. The demon announces that he is there to claim the former Demon King's territory. In response, Elsa draws her sword, readying herself to fight the new threat. With a smirk, she informs him that the territory has already been claimed by someone else. He becomes furious, asking if other demons were responsible, but the warrior quickly denies it, clarifying that it was humans. The monster declares that he will kill her first and then the humans who assisted her. She takes in her enemy's imposing size, thinking he's going to be a tough opponent. The rest of the group comes running, wondering if it's a demon attack. From the safety of the castle, Kai simply watches the battle unfold. Griselda is in shock, appearing to recognize the creature. Elsa tells her opponent not to look away, and powers up her skills for an attack. She then unleashes a full-force blast of fire directly at the demon. Her attack forms a slash of crimson flames hurtling straight for its target. However, to everyone's surprise, the monster tanks the hit without any issue. Griselda is stunned by the sight, realizing exactly who this mysterious enemy is. Suddenly, a red attack and a white attack collide, creating Music a massive explosion. The 2 energy slashes neutralize each other, halting the demon's assault. Elsa and the monster shout at each other, engaging in a contest of strength. Music. The impact of their powers generates a thick white smoke that envelops the entire battlefield. The demon is confused by the turn of events, not understanding what just occurred. It's revealed that Kai was the one who intercepted the blow, absorbing all the damage into his body. With a serious look, he remarks that the attack landed exactly where he anticipated, showing he had predicted the move. Elsa is left speechless, finding it hard to believe he managed to stop all of that power. The monster is shocked, questioning if he truly managed to block his attack. Kai retorts, demanding to know who he is and why he's causing so much trouble. At that moment, Griselda shouts Balrog's name. Like recognizing his old companion, the demon's demeanor changes, completely overjoyed to see his princess is still alive. Elsa and Walter are rendered speechless, staring at him with blank expressions. Kai is confused by the situation, wondering why he called her a princess. Balrog, however, flashes a huge grin, celebrating that she is safe and sound. With a booming voice, he exclaims that the princess has grown so much since he last saw her. Elsa asks if Griselda knows him, noting how incredibly loud his voice is. The elf, however, happily greets him, asking where he has been all this time. He explains he was on a warrior's pilgrimage, but came back as soon as he heard news about the castle. Kai becomes pensive, getting a strange feeling he has seen Balrog somewhere before. The demon's expression then turns serious as he stares at Kai with suspicion. He continues to watch Kai, evidently bothered by the young man's presence. Griselda senses the growing tension and says she needs to introduce Kai-sama. Balrog is shocked to hear the name repeating Kai-sama. As Balrog looks on in disbelief, Griselda stands by Kai's side, demonstrating that they are now true allies. Kai faces the demon seriously, stating that an explanation seems to be in order. He continues to glare at Kai, a look of doubt and suspicion etched on his face. The scene then shifts to a hall inside the castle where the two finally come face to face. He then sits down on the floor and it's revealed that he is an ogre. Kai muses that this is the strongest warrior race known for their completely insane power. Just then Walter reports that preparations for the operation are almost ready, to which Kai agrees. Outraged, Balrog demands to know what he is plotting, highly suspicious of his intentions. Griselda then formally introduces him as the Great Balrog. She explains he was one of the 4 heavenly kings, who served her father, the former Demon King. Kai is stunned by this revelation, shouting the name of the famous elite group. And with that, he recalls facing Balrog 5 years later in his past life. Balrog says he doesn't understand the situation or why demons and humans are living together. We are then shown that the castle is now a place where everyone coexists in peace. He gets closer to Kai, still trying to figure out what's going on. The ogre then gets right to the point, asking why he's holding turfing the legendary sword of the Demon King. Kai goes quiet for a second, clearly getting ready to drop a bombshell. And with a perfectly straight face, he reveals it's because he's the Demon King himself. Balrog flies off the handle, demanding to know what he just said. And honestly, it's totally understandable why he wouldn't just accept that answer. Even Kai admits it's a bit of a stretch for a human to declare himself the Demon King. But Griselda and Sasha quickly jump to his defense, saying they owe their lives to Kai-sama. Balrog is just confused, wondering why they'd swear their loyalty to a human. Then he clenches his fist and casually shatters a stone pillar. With a mighty roar, he completely demolishes the column, making his frustration crystal clear. He turns to Sasha, asking if she's forgotten the final words of the former Demon King. The elf just gulps, nervous about how her old friend is reacting. He tells everyone he doesn't know what kind of nonsense they've been fed. The ogre then shouts that Princess Griselda is the one and only true heir to the throne. She, however, stays silent with her arms crossed, just watching her friend's little meltdown. He absolutely refuses to accept it, since the idea of a human being the Demon King is just impossible to him. But Griselda steps in to defend Kai, saying that Kai-sama has all the qualities of a great king. Balrog grinds his teeth in rage, clearly not happy with the princess's position on this. At that point, Kai turns and calls the ogre's name, deciding it's time to intervene. He tells him he can decide whether or not to accept him as king after they attack the capital. Balrog is so shocked by the suggestion he breaks out in a cold sweat. Unable to believe his own ears, he yells, asking if Kai is actually serious about attacking the holy capital. The ogre argues that the city has stood for centuries, and a human could never hope to conquer it. But Kai corrects him, explaining it won't be just humans. It'll be demons and humans fighting together. Balrog finds this all ridiculous, calling their plans a foolish pipe dream. Kai remains completely unfazed, simply stating that this isn't the right time for this discussion anyway. He commands everyone to start preparing for the massive siege of the holy capital and informs them that they're leaving the very next day. Furious, the ogre raises his axe and shouts at Kai, getting ready to strike him down. But in that exact moment, Griselda steps right in front of him, blocking Balrog's path. The demon freezes his attack and goes silent for a moment. She then warns him not to get in the way of her master Kai-sama. Infuriated, he asks why she's taking the side of a mere human. The elf tells him he should ask around a bit, since Kai has saved just about everyone here. We see that the castle has become a safe haven for everyone he's rescued. The cat girls all look on, fully supporting the new Demon King. The residents of the castle are all smiles, showing that they completely trust Kai and his leadership. But Balrog still refuses to believe it, thinking it's all some kind of trick. He curses under his breath, frustrated that he can't make sense of what's happening. Angrily, the ogre turns and storms off, throwing the doors open with a crash. He keeps thinking that the former king's final wish was for the princess to be his successor. Balrog continues on his way, still fuming about the whole situation. Just then, another demon catches up to him and points out that he's running off by himself again. He complains about the delay and asks where the others are, but learns they're still at the fortress. Suddenly, a sound from the forest grabs the attention of the ogre and his buddies. He instantly knows that they were followed to this location. The two demons tense up as rain begins to fall. Then emerging from the bushes, a group of holy knights surrounds the three of them. Balrog orders them to come out, noting there are about 10 knights in total. Shouting, "You idiots!" he charges straight at his enemies with full force. The knights advance as a unit, yelling as they prepare to take on the ogre. A spear is hurled with incredible speed, heading right for Balrog's back. The soldier lunges with his weapon, aiming to pierce the demon with a clean hit, but the ogre simply turns and catches the tip of the spear between his fingers with zero effort. He stops the attack dead in its tracks. Showing that the knight's power is nothing to him, the man is shocked, stammering that it's impossible for his spear to be stopped so easily. Balrog then says that to him the weapon is nothing but a twig and makes his move. With a single blow, he smashes the soldier's head straight into the ground. He tosses the broken spear aside, getting ready to deal with the rest of the squad. The other knights scream in fear, utterly terrified by the brutal display they just witnessed. Now sporting a new cut on his face, he warns them that he'll only let one of them live. The scene then cuts to the ogre tribe's forward base, a heavily fortified location. Inside, a subordinate reports to their leader, Balrog, that he's finished his investigation on the human named Kai. Balrog immediately asks with a serious expression what kind of awful things he discovered. But the servant explains that everyone says Kai is a nobleman who actively helps the demon tribe. He's instantly suspicious of the story, thinking there has to be some kind of dirty scheme behind it all. So he switches topics and asks what's going on elsewhere. Meanwhile, Balrog and his men step into an interrogation room to handle some business. One of the guards moves toward the prisoner as Brog watches the scene unfold. He then yanks a sack off the man's head and asks if he's finally ready to talk. The prisoner, all beaten and bruised, claims he'll spill everything about that man's role. Brog is confused by this answer, asking what he's talking about. The man reveals a bombshell Kai is the son of the captain of the Holy Knights, their sworn enemy. Hearing this, Balrog is completely floored, unable to process what he's just heard. The prisoner screams that Kai is one of the knights and a traitor to his own people. Enraged, Balrog grabs the man's face, who desperately pleads with him to stop. As the information sinks in, Balrog's expression darkens, realizing the gravity of the situation. With a face full of fury, he orders everyone to be gathered immediately. The scene then shifts to a stunning white castle, rising majestically over the horizon. Inside a hallowed ground, we see rows of stone tombs, each marked with a cross. It's explained that an army of undead former holy knights resides here along with demons who were enslaved in the castle's mines. Griselda appears at a window, revealing that their army consists of 1,000 soldiers at most. But the enemy has 10 times that number, not to mention a protective barrier and magical weapons. She's worried about their disadvantage, but Kai suddenly appears behind her, looking completely unfazed. Griselda whirls around in surprise and calls his name, confused by how calm he is. Kai admits that the power difference seems huge, making a direct invasion look nearly impossible. The elf is taken aback and questions his use of the word seems, waiting for an explanation, but he just offers her a confident smile and says, "Everything's going to be fine." He reassures her, reminding her that everyone they need is here. He points out that their quality is far superior. Together they gaze at the enemy capital, determined to tear it all down and rescue Colette. Griselda gets pumped up by their plan, asking with a grin if he really thinks so. But just then, a messenger comes sprinting in, announcing that an envoy from Balrog has arrived. Kai glances to the side with a serious look, already sensing what this is about. The scene cuts to the ogre messenger, who bows deeply and bellows a sincere apology, a regretful look on his face. It's as if he's made a terrible mistake, but Kai is unimpressed, commenting, "That's not how a real apology works." The ogre explains that Brog wishes to apologize personally and invites him to a banquet in their village. Our hero finds the invitation pretty selfish. Being summoned for an apology strikes him as odd, but he decides to decline since he's swamped at the moment. Upon hearing the refusal, the messenger takes a deep, frustrated breath. He's clearly annoyed by the response. He rises to his feet with a menacing aura, asking if Kai understands the implications, and warning him that refusing an invitation from the ogre tribe is a huge mistake. Kai realizes that having them as enemies would be a major problem, and figures he has no other choice. Seeing Sasha's worried face, he simply tells her that everything will be okay. He then turns to Walter and tells him to lead the main group ahead. He calls for Griselda and Sasha to join him, and they immediately agree. With a weary expression, Kai faces the messenger, ready to go with him. He then asks the ogre to lead the way to the village, accepting the not-so-optional invitation. The group sets off, guided by the massive ogres, toward their home. As they arrive, Griselda mentions that this is her first time visiting this place too. She's amazed by the sheer scale of everything, finding all the structures absolutely gigantic. The trio stands in the center of the village, taking in the ogre's rustic lifestyle. Kai notes that there are hardly any buildings that look like actual houses, but the ogre guide retorts that they don't need them since they have no enemies strong enough to challenge them. Kai listens quietly but continues to survey the area with a suspicious eye. A close-up on an ogre's arm highlights just how enormous they are next to Kai. He then asks why they're wearing armor if they truly don't have any enemies. The messenger gets a little flustered by the question and awkwardly looks away, making up an excuse. He claims they were just returning from a battle and that it's a complete coincidence. Kai gives him a look that says, "Yeah, I'm not buying it." A purple aura suddenly flares up. Kai instantly senses that something is very wrong here. The ogre messenger gets nervous and asks if the excuse he gave was good enough. Kai finds this all very strange, especially since the ogre tribe isn't supposed to possess any magical power. The guide then quickly ushers the group forward, saying that their leader Balrog is waiting. They finally reach the entrance of a giant cave that serves as the ogre's main base. With a grand gesture, the messenger invites them inside to meet the chief. But Kai uses his keen senses and warns that there are already people lying in wait for them up ahead. Sporting a super sinister smile, the ogre tells them to just keep moving forward as he continues to guide the group into the cave, leading them straight into a trap. With a serious look, Kai faces the situation, already steeled for any danger that might appear. The group keeps walking through the cave, making their way across a seriously rickety wooden bridge. Kai figures this area must be the center of the village, and he's already wondering about potential traps. But the strangest part is that he senses someone's presence who isn't from the tribe. He quickly warns his companions to stay alert, because danger is definitely on its way. Just then, their guide pulls back a curtain and asks if this is the place they need to go. Kai stares at the passage with a grim expression, ready for whatever's next. Upon entering, they're welcomed by Balro and his men, a reception Kai was fully expecting. The ogre leader also greets Griselda, a very suspicious smile plastered on his face. Kai tells them to skip the pleasantries, explaining that they're in a hurry and need to leave. The scene then shows that they're in a large banquet hall with a table loaded with food. Completely unintimidated, our protagonist sits down, staying on high alert the entire time. Balro comments that Kai is being a bit cold, ignoring their whole welcome party. He invites him to a meeting about the future, but tells him to enjoy the banquet first. Griselda gets completely starry-eyed over the food and immediately starts devouring everything in sight. The table is a truly lavish spread with several dishes that all look absolutely delicious. Seeing the food, Kai's eyes widen as he instantly realizes what's going on, but Griselda is totally oblivious and happily shouts that the food is amazing. She and Sasha feast on the rare dishes, while Kai remains serious and deep in thought. Balrog laughs, saying he's happy for her before turning his attention back to Kai. He points out that our protagonist hasn't eaten anything yet, creating a very tense atmosphere. Then with a look dripping with suspicion, the ogre leader asks what's wrong. Kai just closes his eyes and replies that it's nothing, trying to hide his concern. Even so, he scoops up a bit of food with his spoon, preparing to taste it. And then under the watchful eyes of everyone, there he finally takes the first bite. Balrog's eyes glow red, waiting for something to happen to the young man. But Kai surprises everyone, saying with a smile that the food is actually very tasty. Balrog is a bit taken aback and just replies that he's glad he liked it. The other ogres at the table keep watching, still waiting for a result. Everyone in the room is just staring at our protagonist, not understanding why nothing has happened. Right in the middle of the banquet, Griselda drops her bowl, clutching her stomach from a sharp pain. Sasha is terrified by the scene and screams Griselda's name, not understanding what just happened. A moment later, she feels the same pain and realizes they've both just been poisoned. The two of them then collapse onto the table, taken down by the poison they ate. Kai feigns surprise at the scene and asks what in the world happened to them. But Balrog reveals he knew everything all along, asking Griselda to forgive him for what he's done. He turns his back and warns her that a human like Kai can't grant her wish. Our protagonist then holds Griselda and asks the question he already knows the answer to: did he poison them? Balrog confirms that he gave them a paralyzing poison, but one that's lethal for Kai. Kai plays dumb and asks why he would do such a thing. The ogre leader gets furious, slams his axe on the floor, and tells him to stop pretending. He yells that he knows about the plan to massacre the tribe and that he's going to stop this madness. Our hero then asks with a concerned look who told him that. Balro reveals it was an ally, and mentions that it's strange Kai's still so calm. But Kai just gives a little smirk and asks if that was the best trap they could come up with. He then approaches the fallen girls and tells them their act can be over now. And just like that, the two of them get up, and Griselda even praises their performance, saying it was great. The ogres are in total shock and shout in outrage that they faked being poisoned. But Kai reveals that dealing with poison happens to be a dark mage's specialty. He and Griselda face their enemies, showing they were ready for this all along. It's explained that he simply used his magic to detoxify the food before they ate. A furious Balrog asks Kai if he knew about the trap the whole time, and Griselda shouts back that of course they knew, leaving the ogres completely stunned. She recalls all the clues like the threatening invitation and the pointless armor. The messenger looks embarrassed as she says their trap was way too obvious. Griselda adds that even the way he spoke was a dead giveaway that something was wrong. Balrog gets angry at the plan's failure and decides to resort to brute force. He says poison isn't really his style anyway, and prepares for a one-on-one fight. And then he yells that he's going to beat some understanding into Kai. Kai isn't intimidated in the slightest and summons his sword, Tearfing ready for the coming fight. Balrog is surprised to see that Kai has yet another powerful magic sword. Griselda and Sasha get ready to help in the fight, their claws already bared. But Kai yells for them to stay out of it. Just as Balrog's axe comes crashing down, he manages to defend against the blow, blocking the giant blade with his sword. Just as he braced for it, our protagonist feels the full crushing force of the impact. Balrog is floored, unable to believe the young man actually stopped his all-out attack. He admits that Kai isn't the Knight Commander's son for nothing. While praising his strength, he warns that he won't fall for the Holy Knight's little plan and lunges in again. Kai is left totally confused by his words, having no idea what he's going on about. In that instant, the giant ogre charges, roaring for him to die as he unleashes another mighty blow. He's stunned yet again, as Kai manages to dodge the attack by a razor-thin margin. Using his Shadow Walk ability, our hero reappears behind Balrog in the blink of an eye. The ogre panics, unable to keep up with the boy's ridiculous speed, and from above, Kai prepares his counterattack, his eyes locked on his target. He uses Balrog's head as a stepping stone as a red magic circle materializes right on it, and then he lands a direct hit with his Shadow Blade. It's a devastatingly precise strike. The blow connects squarely, leaving Balrog stunned, with his eyes rolled back in pain, but he's still standing, radiating a dark aura as Kai lands back on the ground. Griselda and Sasha can only watch in silence, their faces etched with worry about the outcome of the fight. The other ogres begin to panic, frantically screaming their lord's name. Kai gets to his feet, telling himself that should be enough. In excruciating pain, Balrog can hardly believe he was wounded by a single strike. The protagonist then glances to the side, his expression, turning serious as he readies his next move. Suddenly, a volley of light arrows appears from out of nowhere, streaking across the hall. The arrows strike the other ogres dead on, and they cry out in agony from their wounds. To protect themselves, Kai and the girls throw up a wall of darkness, blocking the incoming projectiles. Our hero is caught off guard by the ambush, wondering what in the world is going on. More ogres are struck down, wondering where all these surprise attacks are coming from. Balrog grows furious, watching his men fall, and he roars in anger at whoever is responsible. At that moment, one of the light arrows hits his face, grazing just past his eye. He trembles with rage, a vein popping on his forehead from sheer fury. For Kai, everything suddenly clicks into place. He recognizes the magical presence, it's his own father's. Just then, Geese, the leader of the knights, appears with his men, calling out his son's name. The camera zooms in on his gauntlet, which glows with a powerful red energy. Geese scoffs, saying he expected this outcome, given that Kai was the one who tore off the ogre's arm. We can see that the Holy Knights have already made short work of all the other ogres in the hall. Geese complains, saying he'd hoped the fight would have worn Kai out more, before concluding that demons simply have no intelligence. He glances at Balrog's battered form on the floor, still annoyed that they couldn't even manage to kill a single dark mage. Kai is in music. Complete shock at the scene, unable to believe what is happening. It then dawns on him that his father deceived the ogre tribe just to kill him. Geese just offers a smirk, saying that fools will believe what they want to believe. Angrily, Kai asks if he also intends to slaughter the entire ogre tribe. The knight stares back with a stony gaze, showing not an ounce of compassion, as he coldly confirms that yes, he will kill every last one of them without any trouble. Hearing this, the true depth of his father's cruelty sinks in, and Kai closes his eyes to process it all. Balrog and Kai glare at one another with pure hatred, and they both scream that they will never forgive each other. With that, the protagonist charges forward, but his father simply calls him a fool for underestimating him. He then pulls out a vial, revealing an ace he's had up his sleeve this whole time, and without a second thought, he downs the entire green liquid inside. Kai is shocked by this, wondering what on earth that potion is. Geese explains that it's a secret elixir from Lord Yan, which grants the power of a hero. At that, his muscles begin to swell and his body transforms completely. The young man is in absolute shock at the sight, breaking into a cold sweat at the grotesque transformation. He wonders if that incredible power is truly the power of a hero. He still doubts that such a ridiculously convenient potion could actually exist. One of the ogres warns that the tribe can't fight anymore after the last assault, but Griselda shouts for Kai to leave the rest of the knights to her and Sasha. The fight reignites as Geese attacks with a chain, using all of his new strength. He strains with all his might, his face a mask of rage, ready to utterly crush his son. But Kai just stares down the attack, calmly waiting for the right moment to counter. Geese dislikes the delay, letting out a grunt of pure fury. The impact of their clash is so powerful that the entire cavern floor shatters. Seeing this, an ogre yells for everyone to run, saying they would only be a burden to Balrog. Meanwhile, the knights erect a holy wall to defend themselves from the destruction. Their leader confirms the order to hold their ground and then finish off the weakened ogres. But the soldiers completely baffled Music, wondering why on earth Kai is siding with the demons. Just then, Griselda unleashes her power using her own blood as a deadly weapon. One of the knights freaks out, unable to believe the kind of magic hurtling his way. She then fires off a blood lance, piercing several enemies at once. Griselda warns that the cavern is about to collapse, and Music tells Sasha to get the ogres out of there. The blonde elf immediately slams her foot down, launching herself into the air for a quick getaway. With a quick flip in the air, she acknowledges the order and heads off on the rescue mission. The scene cuts back to the main event where Balrog and Geese are still locked in a stalemate. Geese roars with excitement that this is the heroic power he's always dreamed of, but Balrog tells him not to get cocky and presses the sword against the knight's neck. Balrog is in shock, unable to comprehend the absurd amount of power he is feeling. Geese then taunts him, asking why he's making such a face. With that, he seizes the opportunity and shoves his sword deep into Balrog's chest. The ogre leader cries out in agony, letting out one last groan before collapsing to the ground. But Kai acts fast, casting his magic music and trapping both opponents right where they stand. He uses the demon binding ability, pouring all his energy into the two targets. His father doesn't understand, watching as magic circles appear all around them. In an instant, blood claws erupt from the ground and bind them both, leaving them completely immobile. Geese yells furiously, shouting that he won't be caught by some filthy mage's cheap trick. He refuses to be captured and uses all his strength to try and shatter the spell. The knight unleashes a wave of sacred power, using his sword to slice through the chains, and he taunts Kai again, saying it's foolish to challenge his father with such a useless class. With a powerful roar, he launches a wave of energy toward Kai. Our protagonist barely dodges, feeling the immense power of the attack graze past him. He has to agree that it's an absurd amount of power, but he glares right back at his father, ready for round two. Geese praises his son's strength, but laments what a shame it is that he wasn't born a hero. Kai dives to the ground to dodge and simply replies that it's fine. The knight is taken aback by this response, not understanding why he's being so calm about it. But the young man reveals to him that the power he's using actually is a hero's power. Hearing this, Geese's eyes go wide as the terrible truth behind the potion finally dawns on him. Kai then creates a wall of shadows, cutting off his father's only escape route. And for good measure, he uses the blood prison again, immobilizing his enemy's foot. With a simple gesture, our hero prepares to end this once and for all. From the ground, several bloody hands emerge, ready to grab the knight's body. They bind him in a merciless grip, squeezing his neck and all of his limbs. Geese screams in agony, spitting up blood from the unbearable pain he feels. The scene cuts to Balrog, who watches the fight's conclusion while still badly wounded. Kai then explains that the potion wasn't an elixir, but a poison that kills within minutes. Balrog is horrified and begins to cry in despair as he realizes he's been deceived. Our hero says he feels sorry for him as he was just another disposable pawn in Yan's game. Geese pleads for him to wait, trying to explain that he never wanted to be a hero this way, but his body explodes into a shower of blood spikes, meeting a tragic and painful end. Amidst the wreckage, Kai stands victorious after the grueling battle he just fought. His face is stained with blood as he stares into the void, processing his own father's death. Just then, a worried Griselda approaches and asks if he's okay after everything that just happened. He just gives her a tired smile and tells her not to worry about him. He then remembers that Yan set this whole thing up just to kill him for music. Good. Seeing his father's sword on the ground, Kai can't help but think this is all his fault. He clenches his fist in frustration as Griselda continues to watch him in silence. She asks how Geese died, and he explains it was from one of Yan's fatal potions. Balrog then questions him, wanting to know if the commander really was his father. Kai confirms that he came to kill him, and because of that, nothing else matters to him anymore. The ogre leader breathes a sigh of relief. Finally understanding the whole truth behind the fight, he decides to call off the meeting since everyone is injured. Kai agrees to wait, but then our hero uses a dark heal and a purple light begins to mend the ogre's wounds. With his hand glowing, he says with a smile that this should do the trick. The ogres are impressed, shouting that their wounds are healing up on their own. Tears well up in Balrog's eyes, touched by Kai's unexpected kindness. The ogres then thank Kai Austin, overjoyed to have been saved by him. Our hero watches the scene silently, until Balrog approaches to talk. He asks why Kai helped them, especially after they had just tried to kill him. Kai just stares at the ogre leader, his expression completely serious. He then reveals that saving the demon tribe was a promise he made to Griselda. Hearing this, Balrog seems to finally understand the young man's true motivations. He cracks a small smile, saying he finally gets why the princess cares for him so much. With that, he leaves her in Kai's care, telling him to take good care of her. The group then says its farewells to the ogres who stay behind, as the party continues its journey. Griselda asks if Balrog would like to come with them, mentioning that it would be safer. But he politely declines, explaining that his one and only master is Griselda. Kai then chimes in, suggesting they all meet up again after the capital is conquered. Balrog looks him in the eye with determination, telling him not to sweat it, and Kai reaffirms that he will act as a demon lord for the tribe, because a promise is a promise. Balrog listens intently to this promise with a serious music expression, seeming to mull over Kai's words. Kai vows to prove his loyalty, saying they can talk it out until he's completely convinced. Hearing this, Balrog has to admit that Kai is a pretty stand-up guy and promises to give him a proper apology. Griselda blushes, overjoyed to see that they've finally patched things up. The other ogres are also relieved, celebrating the newly formed alliance. With a huge grin, Balrog says his goodbyes and confidently declares that they'll definitely see each other again. The team then turns and presses on, leaving the ogre village behind them. They continue their journey, putting more and more distance between themselves and their new allies' territory. Griselda wishes Balrog had tagged along, but Kai reminds her they need to find Walter. Suddenly, a badly injured holy knight staggers to his feet, using his sword for support. Despite bleeding heavily, he manages to muster the strength to call out Lord Kai's name. Griselda gets angry and prepares for a fight, but Kai holds her back. He recognizes the knight, surprised to see he survived the attack. The man says he refuses to accept this betrayal and demands an explanation for everything that's happened. Griselda, confused by the scene, asks Kai who this person is. Kai explains that it's Gallard, his old sword instructor, adding, "It's been a while." But the man is furious about this reunion and demands to know what he's playing at. The girls are taken aback by the tense atmosphere, not understanding the history between the two of them. Kai simply looks away and stays silent, giving the man no answer. The scene then shifts to Walter and Elsa leading the massive demon army. Elsa questions Walter, asking why they aren't making a beeline for the holy capital. But he explains that camping right on the enemy's doorstep would put them at a huge disadvantage. He says it's better to set up a base and wait for the demon lord to arrive. Elsa thinks the strategy is a little weak, but Walter asks her to call it cautious instead. Suddenly, a giant shadowy creature appears in the sky, frightening everyone on the ground. But the creature then poofs into a cute little demon, leaving Elsa completely baffled by the transformation. Walter tells her not to worry, as it's music. Just a messenger from the demon lord. The small demon announces that he has a message. The mission's objective has changed. Walter asks the messenger what their new destination is. It's revealed they must now go to Austin Fortress near the holy capital. Elsa is completely shocked by this, not understanding the new target. She yells that Austin is the demon lord's family name, and Walter confirms it. She then remembers that attacking one's own family is a betrayal, which would break the contract they made. Walter is left at a loss for words. He's clearly shaken by her point, but the small demon just tells them not to worry about it, and to keep moving forward. And with that, the army finally arrives at the gates of the great Austin Fortress. Music. Elsa still suspects it might be a trap, but Walter says it should be fine. Just then, the large wooden gates begin to creak open, kicking music up dust. The warrior asks if he's sure there are no traps, and he agrees. Still a bit suspicious, the demon army begins to march inside the open fortress. However, Walter suddenly seems less sure, and mutters that there's probably a trap after all. And sure enough, Gallard and his holy knights were waiting for them inside. The two are shocked by the ambush, and Walter confirms that it's really them. The knight then shouts at the top of his lungs, ordering them to drop their swords immediately. The entire demon army is left speechless, stunned by the trap they just walked into. Walter grits his teeth, his face a mask of hatred for the enemy before him, while Elsa cracks a sinister smile, clearly excited for the battle to begin. Walter and Elsa get ready for battle as he orders all units to get into formation. Suddenly, all the soldiers' swords and shields simply clatter to the ground. Elsa's eyes go wide, completely shocked by what just happened. Beside her, Walter is also frozen solid, unable to comprehend the bizarre situation. On the other side, Gallard tells them they've misunderstood and that they should be the ones to approach. But in the next moment, he stuns everyone by shouting that his army surrenders. Elsa and Walter are in utter disbelief at the news, shouting out in total confusion. She then demands to know what's going on, unable to wrap her head around their surrender. Just then, music. The sound of calm footsteps approaches the group of knights. Gallard turns his head, already knowing who it is, and sure enough, Kai appears strolling past him and remarking that he's late. With a grin, he says he's just kidding, revealing he used magic to get there early. Walter just stares at him in terror, wondering if this man could actually be the Demon Lord. Completely outraged, Elsa screams that this is treason, refusing to believe what she's seeing. Kai explains that with Geese now dead, he already spoke with the vice captain. Gallard clarifies that as a knightly order, they cannot cooperate, but they are now officially his prisoners. Elsa, Walter, and the other demons are left completely speechless, as that logic makes absolutely no sense to them. Gallard then declares that they will follow Lord Kai, who simply thanks him for the decision. The scene flashes back, showing an injured Gallard on the ground, still clutching his sword tightly. Kai explains that he told the commander how Jan had been using him all along. He offered a deal cooperation with the demon army, in exchange for saving the surviving members. The hero also reveals he told him about the first cycles, though he's not sure if the commander actually believed him. Elsa interrupts, questioning how they can forgive him when she heard he burned down his own house. Kai turns to face everyone and makes it clear that he hasn't forgiven what happened at all. Gallard adds that aside from Aries, there were hardly any casualties, just a few destroyed homes. He then asks Kai not to make him regret his trust. Kai meets his gaze, listening intently to the words of the former knight, now his new ally. Sealing it with a firm handshake, he guarantees he won't saying absolutely. Gallard holds his serious gaze, showing he is placing all his faith in him. Just then, Griselda pops up behind the two, having witnessed the deal they just sealed. With a cute look on her face, Griselda immediately asks if the food is ready yet. Mia chimes in that she's starving, only then noticing Griselda has arrived. Smiling, Kai agrees it's time for a short break and calls for Sasha. Already dressed in a maid's outfit, Sasha replies that they can leave everything to her. The scene shifts to a massive mansion where their meal is being held. Inside, the entire group is gathered around a lavish table, enjoying a magnificent banquet. Griselda raises her glass for a cheerful toast, announcing that the finals are tomorrow and telling everyone to dig in. With that, everyone raises their glasses, celebrating the happy occasion together. Some of the demons are even seen singing, clearly having the time of their lives at the party. Meanwhile, in another corner, Elsa is dancing on the table, much to Walter's embarrassment. Sasha remarks to Griselda that it's touching to see everyone smiling again after so long. Griselda agrees, saying it's all thanks to Lord Kai, but her gaze then drifts over to Elsa, who is now chugging straight from the bottle without a care in the world. The tipsy warrior turns around with a goofy smile. Walter approaches the two and asks Griselda what's going on. He tells her not to worry, since everything is going well thanks to the Demon Lord's clever planning. Griselda smiles and agrees, but admits that wasn't what she was worried about at all. He just stares at her, completely baffled by her response. Right on cue, Elsa grabs him from behind, yelling that he's such a dense idiot. She then whispers in his ear that the Demon Lord is about to go help another woman. Griselda asks what she's talking about, but Elsa just plays dumb for a moment before turning back, ready to spill the beans. With a mischievous grin, she shouts out that Griselda is totally in love with the Demon Lord. Sasha gets furious and yells at her, while a mortified Griselda tries to hide. Sasha tells Elsa to mind her own business, leaving the other warriors speechless. After getting chewed out, Elsa takes off running, fleeing the very chaos she just started. Griselda calmly takes a sip of her drink and tells Walter to just ignore what happened. He and Sasha exchange a look, before Walter bluntly asks if she's really in love with him. Griselda turns beet red, but before she can answer, Kai himself appears nearby and asks if it's true. Kai stares at her with a completely serious expression, catching everyone off guard with his question. Griselda, now red as a tomato, breaks out in a cold sweat, totally at a loss for words. Just in the nick of time, Mia appears and announces that the Demon Lord wanted to have a word with her. The flustered elf stammers, asking if Lord Kai really wanted to speak with her. Without a moment's hesitation, she spins around and shouts that she's on her way, practically sprinting towards him. The others can only watch this unfold, with Sasha cracking up, while Walter looks extremely worried. He turns to Sasha and asks if Griselda is going to be okay, clearly concerned about her reaction. The scene shifts to later that night after the party has finally wrapped up. Through a window, we can see the silhouette of Kai talking with Balrog inside a room. Griselda knocks on the door and announces her arrival, still looking a little embarrassed from earlier. She walks in with a flushed face, trying her best to look composed in front of everyone. Kai turns to her and simply says, "It's good she came," which immediately makes the atmosphere tense. Balrog then jumps in, questioning him about the mission. He wants to know if it was all just bait for the army. With a serious look, Kai confirms that yes, that was the plan from the very beginning. Griselda stares at him nervously as he goes on to explain that this entire mission was for her. Kai introduces the man in front of him, revealing his name is Gale. The man then introduces himself as the leader of the Red Scorpion mercenaries. Kai sizes him up and confirms that he is indeed the person he was looking for. With introductions out of the way, our hero announces that it's time to talk about the plan. He explains that this group is made up of humans and demons who will take on any job. But Gale cuts him off firmly, stating that there's no need for any of that. Kai is a bit taken aback by his attitude, not quite understanding what he meant. The leader then reveals that he's already figured out the objective and will use his connections with the Empire. A map shows us the border, explaining that this move would force the capital to shift its army. Gale says his mercenaries will pose as Palian troops to create a diversion. He finishes his thought saying this will divert all attention from the holy capital. The hero questions him, asking if he isn't getting a little ahead of himself. But the mercenary reassures him, guaranteeing that his group is always very well prepared. Suddenly, Walter bursts into the room, desperately shouting for the Demon Lord. He then breaks the news, announcing that a massive army from the capital has just arrived. Kai is completely floored by the news, unable to believe what he just heard. But Gale is unfazed, saying with a smile that they've finally made their move. Griselda and Walter remain on edge, facing the situation with a great deal of worry and fear. Our hero then turns processing the information that the army was already here. With a dark look, Gale announces that the real negotiation starts now. Just then, someone calls out to Kai, who turns with a serious expression ready to act. We see the sacred capital's imposing army marching in formation, fully prepared for battle. Gale reveals that tens of thousands of soldiers came straight from the capital to this very spot. He then confesses that it was his mercenaries who lured the enemy army to them. Kai glares at him angrily, demanding to know what he's trying to pull with this madness. But Gale tells him to calm down, as this was just a business negotiation. He says an army of this size wouldn't come all this way without proper preparation. The scene focuses on the city's buildings, music, showing that the area is now completely surrounded. Gale explains they wouldn't march to the border for a war that doesn't even exist. With that, he warns that he can change the tide of the battle and asks what Kai's choice will be. Our hero doesn't like his tone and asks if that's supposed to be a threat. The mercenary then explains that he'll use any advantage he has in this situation. Kai thinks to himself that Gale is smart, but now he wonders what he'll demand in return. Then he makes his proposal, asking for the absurd amount of 30 million gold. Griselda is outraged, saying they couldn't possibly pay that even if they sold the mansion. With a smirk, Gale pressures them, asking what's worth more, their lives or their money. Walter points out that if an army surrounds them, they'll be annihilated in an instant. Kai just listens to the offer, but then a very confident smile spreads across his face. Gale pressures him, telling him to think it over, but that he might not have time for that. With a simple gesture, our hero raises a single finger, getting the mercenary's attention. Gale is confused by his attitude, not understanding what he's trying to say. Kai stares right back at him. He keeps his finger raised with a very serious expression. Then with a victorious smile, he makes a counteroffer. 100 million gold. The mercenary leader is dumbfounded, unable to believe what he just heard. He asks if he heard him correctly, if Kai really offered him 100 million. Kai then asks if perhaps he isn't satisfied with the new offer. Gale stammers that's not it, but asks if he can actually afford such a high amount. Griselda whispers that not even the National Treasury could cover that, but Kai tells her to relax. He then explains that Elsa's assets are available and that she has hundreds of millions. Griselda and Walter are shocked, but they finally understand where all the money's coming from. The scene cuts to Elsa, surrounded by piles of gold, saying that all of it gives her the creeps. Kai tells him not to do anything else without authorization, and Gale agrees to the condition. But before closing the deal, our hero says he'd like to ask one last question. He then questions if it's true that this whole war is over a woman. Griselda and Walter are surprised and nervous at the question. Looking at Kai with a serious expression, the Demon Lord simply confirms that yes, it was all true. Gale stares at him for a moment, processing the answer he just received. Suddenly, he starts laughing out loud, finding the situation amusing. He grabs Kai by the shoulder and yells that he thinks it's great, that he loves the idea. Then he holds out his hand, saying he trusts him more than the greedy people of the kingdom. Kai gives a slight smile, seemingly pleased with the mercenary's trust. And with a firm handshake, the two finally seal the deal. The scene changes, music, showing a giant golden barrier protecting the entire city. A soldier shouts orders, warning that the Palya Empire has mobilized an army on the border. Desperate Jan orders them to send 3 divisions as reinforcements immediately. He then thinks that the attack was sudden and, music, they haven't even dealt with the Demon Lord yet. Jan observes the barrier, thinking that with it, they should be safe for now. Still, he decides it's always better to be safe than sorry. So he orders everyone to prepare their weapons and keep the defenses on high alert. The Holy Knights obey, getting into formation and ready for any enemy attack. A warrior reports that they have already selected 12 members for the Demon Lord Subjugation Squad, and he also reveals they have a secret music weapon, a powerful level booster. Yan adjusts his glasses, stating with certainty that there's no problem with the plan, but suddenly the guards bring a captured man to speak with him. The prisoner struggles violently, shouting for them to release him immediately. Yan turns around, looking with contempt at the noise the man was making. Then the soldiers throw him to the ground, causing the man to scream and cough in pain. Lying on the ground, he curses in anger. Frustrated by the commotion, the cleric then asks who the man is and what he did. A guard explains that they caught him stealing and that he claims to be a hero named Aries. Jan stares at him, thinking it's pretty bold of him to call himself a hero. Jan is shocked, asking if the guard really said the name Aries. He remembers that this was the name of the Austin family, the same family as Kai. On the ground, Aries glares at him with a defiant look, unafraid of the situation. Then the cleric composes himself and demands that the prisoner show his crest now. He remembers a prophecy that said, music, the hero would come from that noble family, but Aries refuses, shouting angrily and asking who he thinks he is. The cleric tenses up, not expecting such an aggressive reaction from the prisoner. Then a guard tries to restrain him, but Aries furiously screams not to touch him. The soldier throws him to the ground with force, telling him to be quiet at once. Yan watches the scene with a look of astonishment, surprised by the commotion, and suddenly his eyes widen as he sees a mark on Aries' hand. It was the crest of light, the symbol that belonged only to the true hero. Shocked, he realizes that if Kai wasn't the hero, then it could only be his brother. With his face breaking out in a cold sweat, the terrible truth finally dawns on him. The true hero of the prophecy was Aries, Kai's younger brother. It's revealed that Jan's special ability as a saint is prophecy, music. With it, he can receive information from the future every 72 hours. The vision showed that the holy capital would be invaded by a large army. Comparing it with the prophecy, he confirms that Aries is without a doubt the true hero. On the ground, Aries angrily yells that he's had enough because he is the true hero. He then demands to be released immediately, music, and for everyone to bow before him. Jan and the guards get nervous, unsure how to handle the scandal. A soldier holds him down as Jan decides it's time to begin the interrogation. Aries struggles with all his might but can't break free from the guard's grip. With a serious expression, the cleric orders them to take him to the military base. He becomes desperate, shouting that they saw the crest and will regret this. Yan pays him no mind, simply telling the guard to get a move on and take him away. Outside, he spots the group of hero candidates approaching him. The group's leader announces he has brought the candidates for the hero's official team, and he guarantees that if the capital is attacked, they will also fight to protect it. A warrior explains that the 12 hero candidates are well-tested elite music warriors. He adds that their power is comparable to Ela's, making them valuable. Yan then names them the Subjugation Squad, saying he's counting on them. But the knight questions him, wanting to know if the barrier artifact isn't unprotected. At that, Jan turns to Mateo and orders him to reinforce the guard on the sacred artifact. Mateo just nods, accepting the mission he's just been given. The cleric warns that the task is music, critical, as the barrier depends on the saint and the artifact. Mateo then looks at his hand, remembering music, the pact he was forced to make with Kai. Even so, he assures Jan that he can be counted on for this important mission. The scene then changes, music, and we see Yan walking through the dark corridors of a prison. He calmly descends the stairs, heading toward one of the dungeon cells. Inside, Aries shouts that his father will never forgive them for this. The cleric tells the other guards to leave the area. With a smile, Johann says he wants to have a private conversation with him. Aries glares at him with hatred, asking what the hell he wants to talk about. Johann asks if he's really from the Austin family, and Aries arrogantly confirms it. But then Johann reveals that if he's talking about Lord Geese, he's unfortunately already dead. Aries is shocked by the news, shouting that it's a lie. The cleric then confirms it, stating, It's a verified report from the Holy Knights. With a cold gaze, he informs him that, regrettably, his father was killed by his own son. Desperate Aries asks if it was his brother Kai who committed the crime. With a cruel smile, Johann asks who's going to protect him now that he's all alone. Aries gulps and breaks into a cold sweat. Left speechless, music by the truth. The cleric watches him with a superior air, savoring the prisoner's moment of despair. He then concludes that no one is left to help him, leaving Aries hopeless. Johann starts laughing, shouting, "Who would believe the nonsense about him being a hero?" Fallen on the floor, Aries whispers to himself that he really is the true hero. He is speechless with a blank stare, unable to believe what's happening. Then Johann lets out a strange laugh, a sinister look on his face. And music. He kneels and says he knows that he is the hero, leaving Aries completely confused. Johann extends a hand to him, offering help after all the confusion. Aries is completely paralyzed, not understanding the cleric's change in attitude, but Johann looks at him with a sinister smile, revealing his true intentions. He explains that thanks to his ability, he is the only one who can see the truth. A red curse mark appears on Aries' face, startling the young hero. Johann says that apparently he was cursed to hide his true class. The hero panics, questioning if it was a real curse. At that, he remembers when he was betrayed and left for dead by his own brother. He then realizes everything, shouting that it was his brother Kai. Filled with hatred, he yells that Kai must have cursed him back then. Johann now understands the curse as Aries picks up a sharp object from the floor. With a smile, he manipulates him, asking if he doesn't want revenge for everything. Aries trembles with rage, slowly turning his face toward the cleric. All the memories of suffering and escape flash through his mind at that moment. With a look full of hatred, he stands up and confirms that yes, he wants revenge. Full of hatred, Aries grits his teeth and swears he will kill Kai himself. Johann cracks a victorious smile, satisfied that his manipulation plan worked. Aries then grabs the bars, begging the saint to break the curse right now. The cleric gets annoyed by his audacity, calling him a bastard in his thoughts, but he hides his anger and replies that, of course, he will help him with that problem. The hero celebrates wildly, shouting that he's finally getting rid of that curse. However, Johann suddenly interrupts him, warning that there is one condition. Aries stares at him, confused, music, as he wasn't expecting to have to do anything in return. The two fall silent for a moment as the cleric explains his condition. With sweat on his face, Aries accepts the deal, responding with a "very well." Now outside the cell, he yells, "Great." Feeling powerful next to the guard, he immediately starts making demands, asking for a royal suite and first-class women. The guard asks if he should do it, but Johann tells him to obey without question. The soldier is in shock, wondering if that man was really the hero from the prophecy. Aries calls him trash, while Johann thinks Aries will be useful, despite his personality. The knight is in shock, asking Johann if that was really the hero. But he says that either way, their combat force is now assembled. Suddenly, a guard comes running, carrying an urgent report about Saint Colette. Johann tells the guard to lower his voice, not realizing someone was already listening. At that moment, Aries, who is nearby, hears the name and discovers that Colette is in the city. At an outpost, the guards scoff, thinking no one would be crazy enough to attack. But hidden in the trees, Kai watches the capital from a distance, waiting for the right moment. With a focused gaze, he prepares to put his plan of attack into action. Suddenly, a flare is fired, lighting up the city's night sky. Griselda and Sasha receive an urgent message about the enemy troops on the move. Griselda says it's thanks to Elsa surprising Sasha with the compliment. Elsa gets all flustered and stammers that what she did was no big deal. Sasha is confused by the elf's strange reaction. In the forest, Walter orders everyone to stop warning them about the 5 watchposts. But he says the demon lord has already prepared a strategy and tells everyone to hold their position. Some of the demons are confused, wondering where the demon lord has gone. But suddenly one of the posts is rocked by an explosion of dark magic. The guards scream in desperation, warning everyone that an intruder has breached the area. One of them is in shock, realizing the attacker is casting spells without any incantation. Recognizing the magical energy, he realizes it can only be the feared demon lord. Kai turns facing the guards at the watch post with a defiant look. He then activates one of his magic cards, preparing for the fight ahead. Just then, a guard spots him and orders the archers to shoot him down at once. A shower of arrows flies toward him, and the guards start to celebrate, thinking they've got him. But a barrier of dark energy appears, blocking all the arrows with ease. The guard's jaw drops, stunned that he defended himself without even looking. Kai realizes his auto-chant worked perfectly, just as planned. With this confirmation, he decides to take on the post by himself to gain a massive amount of experience. He remains focused, his magic barrier still active and ready for more attacks. We're told this ability costs 2,000 EP and activates spells automatically. It counterattacks anything that comes within range, but it consumes a lot of mana in the process. More importantly, Kai knew this ability was the key to his victory. Desperate, the commander orders the mage squad to attack with everything they've got. The hooded mages then begin to conjure their fire spells against our hero. Countless fireballs fly toward him, and the commander yells that there's no way he can block them all. We then learn that his auto-chant can cast multiple spells at once. With that, the fire attacks are completely absorbed by his dark energy. One of the mages reports that his mana has run out, leaving the commander in utter despair. He wonders how Kai can cast so many spells, thinking his mana supply must be infinite. But in reality, Kai was draining his enemy's mana to annihilate them. With a smile, he reveals he's basically become a perpetual motion machine. The commander is terrified by this revelation, realizing he doesn't stand a chance. Suddenly, a dark bolt strikes one of the soldiers, who screams in pain. Soon after, Kai deactivates the ability, seeing that no one is left at the post. A system message congratulates him on his victory and awards him 500 experience points. In the distance, one of the demons praises his strength, while Kai is already thinking about how to spend his new points. But suddenly a small bat demon appears flying toward our hero. Kai addresses him as Archdemon and asks why he didn't just use telepathy to communicate. The creature explains he came as a bodyguard, but Kai tells him to get straight to the point. The demon then gets closer and reports that he has just received new information. The scene shifts to the dark sky, setting a somber mood for the coming revelation. It is revealed that Jan is now engaged to Saint Colette, shocking the entire kingdom. Kai is completely stunned by the news. Unable to believe what he just heard, a red aura of hatred begins to radiate from him. As Kai's fury manifests, the bat demon is startled by his reaction, fearfully calling out Lord Kai's name. The dark aura shoots up to the heavens as our hero processes this devastating news. With a cold gaze, he finally understands what needs to be done. Under the moonlight, he orders the archdemon to take the capital before the moon sets. The demon immediately agrees and flies off to inform the rest of the army. Meanwhile, Walter, Ella, and the other demons are shown in an abandoned village. They arrive at a completely destroyed outpost, confused about where the watch posts are supposed to be. Some of them grumble that the intel seemed like a complete lie, but Sasha just smiles and says this is the path Lord Kai cleared for them. With an excited shout, Griselda orders the entire army to advance and begin the final battle. The demon soldiers cheer, shouting excitedly as they march toward the capital. The army finally reaches the bridge, and up above, Kai is already waiting for them. A dark and powerful aura radiates from him, showing his sheer determination. Griselda looks up at him from below, calling out Lord Kai's name with great seriousness. Beside her, Walter says, "The moment has finally come. Sesei Isakosad." Looking tense, the demon soldiers prepare themselves, and from above, Kai orders them all to take their positions. He observes his army satisfied that there have been no casualties so far. Kai closes his eyes for a moment, concentrating on what's to come. Then Griselda shouts for the battle to begin, with Kai leading the charge against the capital. The scene takes us to the west gate of the Holy Capital, where knights are on watch. One guard comments that the fog has gotten thicker, while another suspects it's an enemy spell. Just then, a strange blue light begins to glow in the middle of the thick fog. Suddenly, Kai emerges from the mist with a serious and determined look. Seeing him, the knights draw their swords ready for the coming fight, but our dark mage faces them without a hint of fear. One of the guards panics, yelling that the demon lord has finally appeared. Despite their fear, the captain orders the attack, and his soldiers charge Kai. As they completely surround him, one of them yells out that he's a mage. The leader immediately orders them to activate their magic shields, hoping to buy some time. Little did they know an entire army was already waiting for them on the other side of the gate. One of the knights scoffs, mocking Kai for thinking he could get past the watchposts all by himself. But suddenly he feels a strange presence, and his smirk vanishes in an instant. Kai unleashes an immense pressure, making the very air around him tremble. The soldiers feel the ground shake beneath them, wondering about the source of the terrifying sound. Suddenly, through the dense smoke, several ominous orange glints begin to appear. One of the knights starts to panic, just as his companion is struck down by an unseen force. With a simple gesture, Kai summons an army of undead knights that charges forward relentlessly. The first victim falls in seconds, stabbed in the back, with no chance to even defend himself. Chaos erupts as the undead swarm the soldiers, attacking from every direction. Peering through the fog, a soldier notices the enemies are wearing the armor of holy knights. His blood runs cold as he realizes Kai has reanimated the bodies of their fallen comrades. From a bird's eye view, the massacre is clear. The knights' formation has been completely shattered. The captain shouts in desperation, music yelling that their defensive line collapsed in an instant. The undead army gives no quarter, violently forcing the knights into a retreat. Left with no other choice, their leader orders everyone to fall back to the barrier immediately. But just as they begin to flee, a mysterious man appears, blocking their path. He announces that he's joining the fight and threatens to cut down anyone who tries to run. Moments later, 2 more leaders appear, ordering the men not to retreat until victory is theirs. Now trapped between 2 fronts, the knights are completely stunned, unsure of what's going on. Without a moment's hesitation, one of the new leaders strikes down a fleeing knight with a fatal blow of dark energy. Seeing this, the mysterious warrior charges with his sword drawn straight into the undead army. With a confident smirk, he asks if these monsters have ever had a taste of the light attribute. He then unleashes a devastating wave of light using music, his flash-slash technique. The attack is so powerful it disintegrates the undead in the blink of an eye. The soldiers start cheering, exclaiming, "These supposedly immortal enemies are dropping like flies." Empowered by the light, another dark knight crumbles to the ground and begins to dissolve. The warrior and a new mage join forces, declaring that the dark attribute is no threat to them. The mage then explains that darkness is easily neutralized by light magic. With a single spell, he enchants the armor and weapons of every knight on the field, leaving the soldiers in awe. Feeling the power of light overflowing from his sword, the leader rallies his troops, asking if they're ready to take down the demon lord. Wielding their newly enchanted weapons, the music knights turn the tables and charge headfirst at the enemy. Watching from a distance, Kai realizes the elite extermination squad has finally joined the battle. With that, he leaps from the rooftop, already preparing his next move. Even from this distance, Kai can feel his mana being rapidly drained by the powerful light magic. He realizes he has no choice but to thin out the enemy forces first. Meanwhile, on the battlefield, the violent struggle continues without a moment's pause, with holy knights falling one by one and leaving a trail of blood in their wake. But suddenly, a brilliant light illuminates the sky, drawing everyone's attention. Kai and the other leaders look up, wondering what in the world is happening. It's a massive resurrection spell, its light blanketing the entire battlefield. In an instant, the fallen knights begin to rise from the very ground where they died. The soldiers are completely baffled, unable to understand what they're seeing. Even the warrior is shocked, wondering aloud if his comrades have truly come back to life. Every knight who died in the battle rises, seamlessly returning to their combat formation. Behind it all, a cleric named Jan smiles, revealing himself as the caster. The squad leader praises Jan, saying his reputation is well-deserved. The cleric simply adjusts his glasses, a cold, calculating glint in his eyes. He then looks directly at our hero from across the battlefield, calling out his full name, Kai Austin. Kai flinches at his words, feeling the full weight of the humiliation. Jan scoffs, calling his grand invasion as the demon lord completely pathetic. Just then, an undead knight lunges at the cleric, but Jan stops the sword with a single hand, remarking that purging demons is his specialty. With a sadistic smile, he reveals his identity as a powerful purifier from the church. Then he unleashes an immense wave of holy energy that sweeps across the entire battlefield. He explains that this is the holy flame of purification, a power contained within his sacred book. Yan taunts Kai, saying that for someone who thought he was leading an invasion, he's now found himself completely cornered. He continues his mockery, pointing out that Kai couldn't even break through the capital's main barrier. As he speaks, the very army of undead Kai created vanishes in a flash of light. The scene cuts to Colette, who is watching the entire battle unfold from a nearby window. To twist the knife, Jan reveals that even the woman Kai loved now belongs to him. Filled with pure hatred, our hero glares at the cleric, who simply calls him a pathetic wretch. But to everyone's shock, Kai just starts laughing mockingly. The cleric is baffled by this and asks what he finds so amusing. Kai offers a fake apology, revealing that this was never his actual plan to begin with. Hearing this, the extermination squad immediately goes on high alert, confused by his words. Suddenly, Jan senses imminent danger and desperately screams for everyone to retreat immediately. But it's too late. A massive explosion erupts right in the heart of the city. With a furious expression, the warrior Elsa prepares to go all out. She charges forward, sword in hand, screaming as she unleashes an explosive attack against the barrier. In an instant, another section of the city is engulfed by a second massive explosion. Yan's group realizes they're not only surrounded, but the barrier itself is under attack. He starts to panic, knowing that particular area is weak, and their entire plan is on the verge of collapsing. In a panic, Yan declares it's all over and tries to leave the demon lord to them, but the group's leader furiously shouts after him, asking where that coward thinks he's running off to. Without saying a word, the cleric casts a spell and simply vanishes into the thick smoke. The warrior realizes it was just an illusion. Yan would never actually fight on the front lines. As the smoke begins to clear, it reveals a newly opened path through the chaos. From a distance, Kai watches everything unfold with a cold expression, his true plan finally coming to fruition. The scene shifts to the Chamber of Relics, where a pair of guards hear the distant explosion. Then the young Mateo tells his partner to go check it out, insisting he'll be fine on his own. The other guard agrees and leaves, falling right into Mateo's trap. Now alone, Mateo reveals that Kai's true objective is the destruction of the sacred relic. A flashback shows Jan callously ordering the use of more test subjects, showing zero regard for their lives. Mateo looks on in horror, witnessing his superior's cruelty firsthand. Back in the present, he reflects on his faith, only to realize he's already lost it. With that resolution, he unleashes his power, destroying the sacred relic in a blinding flash. The scene cuts back to the gate where a commander is shouting for a situation report. Amidst the chaos, a mage asks what that explosion was and if the front line has been breached. But just then, a new silhouette emerges from the smoke, leaving the mage completely stunned. It's a cat girl with razor-sharp claws and a fierce, determined look in her eyes. Moving with unbelievable speed, she lunges forward and attacks the mage directly in front of her. The man doesn't even have a moment to react before his throat is slit in an instant. She stands over the bodies of the mages she just dispatched. Then the cat girl lets out a soft meow, which is actually a signal to attack. On her signal, an entire army of demons and mercenaries emerges in full force from the smoke. Their leader roars, ordering the whole army to advance. The mages panic, realizing they're now completely surrounded by enemies. The purple-haired girl charges ahead, leading the slaughter of the mages. The survivors try to make a desperate escape, screaming in terror from the ambush. But just then, a squadron of knights appears. Their leader warns the invaders that they've gone too far. Annoyed, the mercenary chief faces him down and asks just who they think they are. With an arrogant smirk, the knight captain reveals they are the subjugation squad. The mercenary leader then yells over to Elsa, complaining that the barrier still isn't down. She just smiles and tells them not to get in the way and to attack again. The mercenary leader grins and readily agrees, eager to continue the invasion. He then orders his men to keep the knights from interfering with their plan. Hearing this, one of the knights laughs maniacally, boasting he'll finish them all right here. But the mercenary effortlessly blocks his attack, and the shocked knight demands to know if he's even human. Seeing his absurd strength, the knight becomes enraged and calls him a traitor. The mercenary looks confused for a moment, not understanding the accusation. He then activates an enhancement ability, causing his sword to glow with immense power. With a smirk, he recalls that it was the humans who betrayed him in the first place. With his newly empowered sword, the mercenary attacks and easily cuts down the knight. Elsa watches the scene from a distance, a victorious smile playing on her lips. Witnessing the defeat, one of the knight commanders desperately shouts for the rest of the squad to regroup. The knights quickly surround Elsa and the mercenary, trying to halt their advance. The situation at the city gate descends further into chaos and violence. Far away, Jan is running for his life, unable to believe that Kai was just a decoy all along. He then spots Elsa and realizes that dangerous woman is also a member of the demon tribe. The cleric tenses up, knowing his entire plan is rapidly spiraling out of control. But the warrior spots him from across the battlefield and yells out, telling him to watch closely what she's about to do. With a frightening smile, she then boosts her sword's power, imbuing it with both enhancement magic and a dark attribute. Elsa warns that she won't be holding back anymore. The mercenary points out that she's wielding a demonic sword, and Yan panics at the very sight of the weapon. Then she releases her limiter, and a powerful red aura explodes from her body with incredible force. Yan starts to panic, realizing that with this kind of power, the Great Barrier doesn't stand a chance. In a desperate move, he screams for her to stop and fires off a holy arrow with everything he's got. The holy arrow zips forward, catching the warrior Elsa completely off guard. With a totally unhinged smile, Yan screams for her to just die already. But suddenly a wall of shadows pops up and blocks the holy attack. It was Kai appearing out of thin air to protect his teammate. He gives the cleric a dead serious glare, showing he's not messing around. Yan freaks out, asking how the demon lord managed to get there so fast. Kai calmly replies that he just defeated everyone who got in his way. On the ground, we see the bodies of the entire squad that tried to stop him earlier. The cleric is completely terrified by his strength, stammering that this is just insane. Seeing Kai's power, Elsa smiles and says she totally gets how he feels. Then Kai shouts her name, music, giving her the signal to put the final part of their plan into motion. With a wicked grin, Elsa confirms she got the message loud and clear. Yan gets even more desperate, screaming and begging them to stop. Meanwhile, far away, Music Mateo uses his black flames to finally shatter the sacred relic. With that taken care of, Elsa unleashes her black flame attack with full force. The blast of dark energy slams right into the Great Barrier, music, causing a massive impact. The holy shield immediately starts to crack, unable to handle the pressure. Yan is in total disbelief watching as his most powerful defense is completely shattered.